I'm Kyle Seipel, and I love this life.
So we sit here in Sonoma, California, and it's been referred to as the House of Big Nasty. So this is where you grew up, right?
Yeah, but honestly, I pretty much grew up at Fremont. My mom ran Fremont Drag Strip since 1988. My dad has raced at Fremont Drag Strip his whole life. And that being said, I definitely grew up at Sonoma also. Watched my dad race. My mom has raced here. Have a lot of family and friends out here, and I really can't believe that they would actually, the officials here, after knowing me my whole life, would hand me the keys to the track. But here I am in 2020, and I have the keys to the track. Absolutely.
This is your hometown, right?
Yeah, I live about 45 miles from here. Absolutely.
I've met your mom and dad, Georgia and Ted, and tell me a little bit about your family. Are you an only child?
Yep, only child. Absolutely. My dad started racing in 1958, and I'm very proud. My dad is my hero, first and foremost. But that being said, he's raced the same car, Warren, since 1958. He still bracket races that car here in 2020, and same car he began racing in 1958. And so he's raced for 62 years. My mom, I grew up at the track. Every weekend we were at any type of Northern California track there was. There was Fremont, Sonoma. We would travel up to Bakersfield, Orange County, and I didn't play sports. This is what I did every weekend, which is pluses and minuses to that. Obviously, me running this track, I probably wouldn't be able to run this track without having that background. But we spent every weekend that we could at the races, and pretty much all I know, bracket racing to me is pretty much like top fuel to Tony Schumacher, let's say. But I grew up at the track. My dad's bracket raced his whole life. When I was a youngster, my mom would always tow him around. And I remember whenever my dad would lose, we would ride in the tow truck together, and she would tell me what he was doing wrong all the time. So one day my dad had enough. He said, "You know what, George, I think it's time for you to race." This is probably about 1983, 84. I was about 12 or 13. And she raced for about 5 or 6 years. She did very well. She didn't do very well to begin with. She found out right away that racing is a lot harder than what it looked like. But that's pretty much the background that I've had. I started, my mom running the track, I had to abide by the rules. So there was a loophole in the rules back in the day to where you could race a motorcycle without a driver's license, but you obviously need to have a driver's license to race a car. So at 12 years old, I started racing a 22-second motorcycle at Fremont. My dad and I go out every Wednesday night. And I progressed through the ranks. Once I got to high school, I had an 18-second Nova, and then 12-second Nova, and then the family Austin Healey Super Street car. Then I raced my dad's Super Gas car, and we've kind of progressed. I've raced just about any type of sportsman class there is, yes.
So as a kid, did you ever have any desire to the stick and ball sports or anything like that?
I really didn't. Being an only child, I was a little defiant. I wanted to do something different than what I was doing my whole life. I didn't want to race, so I was a very avid bowler. Growing up, I was a bowler. I went to Hawaii, did a lot of different tournaments. I was actually, I was nationally ranked in the top 10 when I was 12 years old. I had I think a 195 book average when I was 12 years old, and I thought I was going to be a professional bowler. My mom running Fremont, she always asked me to do some different tasks, and I didn't really I wanted to hang out with my friends and stuff. So before you know it, 12, 13 years old, I started working the time slip booth, and I got the bug, bottom line, when I was a teenager, to where, you know what, I think I want to follow my dad's footsteps, and here we are, I'm 49 years old now, so almost 35 years later, this is what we do.
But it sounds like you didn't really have a chance.
Absolutely, yeah. But only child being a boy, I think that the road was pretty much paved for me to be a racer for sure.
So having been around your mom and your dad, Georgia and Ted, both of them are big personalities for sure.
Yeah, sure.
And you come across that way as well. But if you dug inside yourself, would you say you're more like mom or dad or?
I would say
both?
a little bit of both, but probably more like my father, I would say. You know, he was my hero growing up, racing, still is. 83 years old, he's he's still battling out here today with the youngsters. And but yeah, I would say I have both for sure, but probably lean a little bit towards my father. Yeah.
You refer to him as your hero. Why do you say he's your hero?
You know, I've seen him accomplish so much with so little. Yeah, you know, he very, like I say, he's raced the same car since 1958. He is very he's very budget minded, let's just say, and he's accomplished so much in his career with I wouldn't say non-superior equipment, but with equipment that you know. His car, his super gas car, is probably worth $15,000-$20,000. He's out here competing against $100,000 race cars and holding his own. But you know, when I was growing up, he won quite a bit, and you know, he's my hero for a lot of different reasons, but mostly for what he's accomplished with very little means, really.
How was it for you growing up? Were you like a good student? Did you go on to college? Tell me about those.
I was a little bit of everything. I was a better student when I was younger. The older I got, the less intrigued I was with school. Graduated from high school, didn't know what I wanted to do. Like most, I actually thought I could be a professional race car driver, which it was very short-lived. But that being said, I went to junior college. Was going to explore real estate. That didn't pan out. I had a couple different businesses that didn't pan out. So that, as my dad would say, that's pretty. My mom, for that matter, they both say that was my tuition. I had a couple of businesses that fell by the wayside, and instead of going to school, I went to the school of hard knocks, let's say.
If you look back at those businesses when you tried to step out on your own, even though financially they might not have panned out, what kind of life experience did you get out of them?
Yeah, it's a great question, Warren. You know, I definitely found out very quick that you need to be prepared, a lot more prepared than I was for either business. You know, it was, you know, only child. I'd say I had pretty much things in my own way growing up, and thought that I could run a business the same way without being prepared, and everything would fall my way. But I found out very quickly that there's a lot of competition out there, and unless you dot your I's and cross your T's, you aren't going to succeed. So I would say that I learned once again the school of hard knocks very quickly. But it was you know, at the time. You didn't really realize that it was preparing you for things in life further on, but at this point, I would say that it was a great experience to get me where I'm at now.
Most only children are spoiled.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Are you spoiled?
100%, 100%. I mean, I'm 49 years old, and my mom, she fed me lunch today, and I'd say that my wife always kids me. She says her next husband will not be an only child. She's seen the side of the only child all the time. That's for sure.
Well, using terms like next husband, that probably doesn't bode very well for you.
Well, it's a little bit tongue in cheek. She always kids me, but no, we have a great relationship. You know, I have two young children: 6-year-old Hudson, 14-year-old Sydney. They both do their. Hudson just started junior dragster racing, 3rd generation. My father and him and I were at a race about a month ago. Had a great time together. But yeah, that being said, my wife doesn't come to the race as much. This is my own deal. She has her own things that she does, and we make it work, and we have a great relationship. Absolutely.
So how did you meet your wife?
We went to high school together. High school sweethearts. Yep. We went to school. Where we grew up, you started high school in 8th grade, and I actually in Spanish class decided that I'd sit next to her during one of the big midterms, and copied off her, and got in trouble for it. And you know, here we are. That was 1989. Actually, 1985. So here we are, 35 years later, married. So pretty cool stuff.
For some reason, I get the general impression that you might have been a little bit of trouble as you were a high schooler. You know,
yeah, absolutely.
The rebellious teenager.
Yeah, that's why my mom still doesn't trust me. She thinks that I'm the screw-up that I was when I was a teenager. But yeah, absolutely. I was very rebellious. Once again, could do about anything I wanted back in the day, and didn't think there was any type of repercussions. But yeah, I was very rebellious, let's say. Absolutely.
Have you grown out of that, do you think?
Not 100%. Not 100%. I mean, for the most part, hanging out with Peter has made me grow up a lot, learned a lot about business, and he's a great best friend that's made me progress very quickly, for sure.
Tell me a little bit about how that relationship happened. I mean, you're in California and he's in New York. It's not like you're pen pals.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Great question. So I had known about Peter and Sal. They were the East Coast terrorizers. They dominated bracket racing on the East Coast. On the West Coast, I was pretty much their equivalent. You know, we had very similar backgrounds. We both fathers raced. Our fathers both had very prominent bracket races on each coast. And 1992, Sal came out. He was chasing the world championship in Superstock, and his wife Tony Ann and Jimmy Harrington, the three of them came out to Firebird. And I went up and talked to Sal and said, "Hey, I've heard a lot about you. I'd like to. I'm Kyle Seipel," type of thing. And one thing led to another. We had a couple of dinners out there and became very good friends. And he said, "You know what? My brother's your same age, and I bet you guys are going to hit it off." And that was in '92, and I think I met Peter at the U.S. Nationals in '94, and he would be the first to admit that I was probably very cocky. He was very cocky himself also. We didn't hit it off to begin with, but one thing led to another, and we became very good friends, and it's been a great relationship. You know, I think that sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
His friendship has meant a lot to you.
Yeah. Absolutely. You know, when you have best friends, you try and make each other better people. And he's done that for me, for sure. Yeah. And I hope I've done the same for him. You know, it's like I said, your best friends, you try to make each other a better person. And the best thing ever happened to me. Sure. Yeah.
This closeness has been put to the test over the past couple of years. How do you develop and maintain a friendship like that, being geographically
different coasts? Yeah.
Yeah, how does that happen?
There's a lot of texts and a lot of emails, that's for sure. Yep. You know, when we first started the Flames together, I had a full-time job at Helmet City. He has a full-time job at Beyond the Racing Products, obviously. And it was stressful. I mean, we're both working 10, 12 hours a day, our normal job, trying to do the spring flings essentially on the side at that point. And yeah, it was very stressful. You know, there was times that he wanted to kick my ass and times I wanted to kick his ass. It wasn't very good communication, but obviously at this point we both know that what he excels at and what I excel at, and we've made a great partnership. You know, we couldn't ask for a better partner.
Well, it seems to me that even though you're an only child, he's more like a brother to you than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. That's for sure.
Let's talk about racing a little bit from back in the day. You were a pretty good racer.
Yeah, I was pretty good. Late '80s, early the '90s. You know, raced with my father. Wanted to make him proud. That was most important to me, is to show my dad, listen, I've watched you race my whole life. I want to show you that I could be as good or as good as you, or possibly better. And that was my goal, to really make him proud. And we made a great team. You know, I won 10 ET finals with competing with my father, and 12 divisional championships. So we had a real good run together, for sure. It was a lot of fun.
You still climbing the race car today?
Once in a while. Yep, I definitely still have that burning desire in me to do it. That being said, I like being on the other side of the fence. It's a lot more challenges to promote a race or to be a manager like Sonoma, let's say. But yeah, I still compete, absolutely.
Your relationship with Peter, even though you're close, at times you can be competitive with each other, can't you?
Oh yeah, for sure. We both drive one another in a lot of different ways. You know, he made me a better person, better racer. I could wholeheartedly say he would probably say it's the same thing about myself, that I've made him a better person and a racer. And we would compare notes about racing, about how to dial cars and things of that nature. And we've made each other better racers and people, for sure, most importantly.
The Flings, the Fling series, today it stands as the standard for how to do a bracket race right.
I appreciate that.
And so tell me a little bit about how that all started and the process, and what made you want to do such a crazy thing?
Well, I grew up at the racetrack, and bracket racing was always my forte. I mean, that's when we were at the dinner table, my mom and my father and I, we'd always talk about different strategies and bracket racing in general. 1977, the ET Finals started in Famoso, and that was, to us, the ET Finals growing up, that was the U.S. Nationals. So bracket racing was always my thing. And growing up at the racetrack, watching different kinds of bracket racing, there never was much big bracket racing on the West Coast. So I always told myself, someday I'd love to have a big bracket race on the West Coast. And met Peter in '94, and we just, things progressed, and we were at in Tahoe together, our families and I, and we said, what, bracket racing, East Coast, West Coast, it seemed to kind of people aren't having as much fun as what we kind of remembered growing up, and we wanted to put on a race that people would have a good time at, be a fair race, and just most importantly have fun, because we thought that aspect was really kind of falling by the wayside. So, we were in Tahoe, and we spent 3 days together, and probably 2 of the 3 days we were in a cabin, made a bunch of notes on what we would do and to run a race. And 11 years ago, we did a race at Bristol, and we thought we did everything right. We spent about 9 months preparing for it. We got a really bad forecast. 5 days, at minimum was 70% chance of rain each day. And lo and behold, the forecast scared a lot of people away for obvious reasons, but we had the race didn't get any rain, oddly enough, and we had about 160 racers, 170 racers, and we lost a considerable amount of money. Never thought we'd have the race again, pretty much, when we left, both of us, for that matter. Agreed probably not to have another race, and weeks after the event, we had a lot of positive feedback. Rachel said, we had a great time. We'd love to come to another one of your races, and we decided to do another one in Bristol, and I think that 160, 170 car count went to 300. Had a very profitable and fun event, and things have progressed, and that's pretty much how it started, absolutely. The
Fling is sort of about the race, but it's more about the experience.
It truly is. That's our motto, race experience. But you're right. Part of the business model is that most bracket races race at a very small track. They're not used to coming to a facility similar to Sonoma. We want to bring them to a facility that has a wow factor. Like, wow, I never thought I'd be able to race at a venue like this. So the facilities that we have chosen over the years, Bristol, Vegas, Galat, have that wow factor. I mean, we wanted to treat the racers, not only have that wow factor, but wanted to treat them like a professional. We had the live feed, which back in the day wasn't so prominent, and we'd interview them as they won the event, and just try to put them on the big stage, so to speak, and treat them like they were a professional racer, that they wouldn't have an experience like this anywhere else. And we're very fortunate to have a lot of manufacturer support from the get-go that helped us progress very quickly, and we never take that for granted, for sure.
The Spring Fling is a very innovative event as well. It's different than bracket races were at the time, and now, like I said, it's become the standard.
Yeah, but we decided early on we'd like to separate door cars from dragsters. When we first started, there was probably 20 to 25% door cars, 75% dragsters, let's say, and we thought that if we could even the playing field and have a reason for door cars to come out and think they had a fighting chance, which at the time they're really for the most part, door cars didn't really think they had a chance against dragsters at that time, at least, and we'd separate them until they were down to 16 cars or less. And you're right. We've done. We were fortunate enough to do True Start with Bob Brockmeyer, something that Peter and I are very passionate about, the worst red light rule. And there's been quite a few other things that a lot of our competitors have followed, and we're very fortunate, for sure.
Looking on the horizon, what do you see with the Fling? What do you think the next big thing will be, or what's the next step for the Flings?
Well, for us, it's probably going to another event. You know, we've been very slow to grow. We want to make sure that we make these events the best we can. You know, we both have young families, and I have a job at Sonoma. He has a job at Beyond the Racing Products, and we want to make sure that we don't spread ourselves too thin to this point. But we think that we've fine-tuned the model enough to go to another venue, another event. So I think here shortly, you'll find that we're going to go to a fourth event, and who knows what leads from there. You know, we progress very slowly. We try to make sure that we have enough demand to go to these events, and once again, you know, we feel going to a fourth event is the right thing, and that's what you'll see within a short time frame for sure.
The sport has been a part of your whole life. What do you find the best part of the sport?
I'd say the friendships, camaraderie, friendships. You know, it's pretty much all I know. But that being said, it's all about memories for me. I mean, I would say that 90% of my friends that I hang out with is because of drag racing, quite honestly. And right before this interview, as a matter of fact, I was at the Earlville trailer, and there was 10 of us just telling stories for the last 20, 30 years that it's just, it's all about memories for me, for sure.
How'd you get the nickname, Big Nasty?
That's Andy Morris. Andy Morris from Division 6. He came up with that name. You know, I think that it's more about the late 1990s, early 2000s that I was very fortunate to turn on a lot of win lights, and he said, you know what, I think I'm going to call you the Big Nasty because nobody could shut you down. But you know, I used to weigh 270 pounds at that around that time frame also. So it's a little combination of my size, let's say, and my presence on the drag strip back then, at least.
So talk about your reputation on the drag strip. When somebody pulled up next to you, what's going through their head, or what do you think's going through their head?
I don't know. That's a great question. You know, it depends on what you're. Like you say, I was very fortunate in the 90s and early 2000s to where I was turning on a lot of win lights, and mostly I attribute that mostly because we were so much ahead of the curve. My father and Dan DeVita were very prominent bracket racers back in the day. Danny actually works for me now here at the track, and they were on cutting edge of technology, delay boxes, throttle stops, you know, dialing cars to that matter, and you know, I was gifted with a lot of skills behind the wheel, but most importantly, I think that the equipment we had might not have been superior, but we had a lot of knowledge that a lot of other racers didn't have, and I think that's probably what was going through their mind, that, you know, Kyle's a good racer, but I know that Danny and his dad, Ted, have taught him a lot, so I better be on my toes.
So growing up, and even today, your dad is your hero, but who else do you feel like is a mentor in your life to really help influence you and guide you? Yeah,
Dan DeVita, most certainly. You know, he's a second father to me. But I find myself, when I was growing up in the tower at Fremont, I remember whenever it was called the WCS back then. That was, I think, the Winston Championship Series, which is the Lucas Oil equivalent now. I would always watch some particular drivers, and there was a lot of different categories. Bill Meropoulos in comp eliminator, he was one of my heroes. He was an innovator, always a very good driver. And Brad Anderson, you know, alcohol funny car racer, he was a big influence on me. My mom ran the track at Fremont. I always looked up to him. He was, once again, an innovator. And I tried to take a little bit, I would be in the tower working the computer pretty much. And I was always try to watch the racers that were winning a lot. And I tried to take a little bit from each driver to emulate that in my own driving myself. Yep.
Well, let's fast forward a little bit. You moved into managing this track where you spent a lot of your life, and it's gone through quite a bit of change since back in the old days.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You know, my mom ran this track for 29 years, decided that she wanted to retire, and she was kind enough to hand me the keys, and she's worked for a great staff out here at Sonoma, and that made, between knowing the staff prior, and when I say staff, pretty much the upper management here at Sonoma, but also just as important, I knew I already had a relationship with a lot of the upper management here as it was through my mother. But probably the most important thing is that the staff that she had here in place, a majority of the employees that worked here 20 or more years. And, you know, it was pretty much going back to a racing analogy, it's like handing me a pro stock car. All I have to do is make sure I get it from point A to point B. Everything was in order. Anything from ticket sales to track prep. The things that I was good at promoting and things of that nature is what the track needed the most. And I could utilize what was in place already as far as a staff, and I'm not one to go out there and scrape the track, do the rollout. I'm not one to be that isn't my forte. My forte is more marketing and putting on the event. So it's kind of a great match, and the staff has had my back. I've been here now for 4 years, and it's been great. You know, between doing this and the flings, it's I couldn't ask for a better opportunity and better lifestyle, quite honestly.
Lifestyle is important. You have a wife and you have young children, basically young children.
Yep.
A little later in life when you became a father.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a 6-year-old son, Hudson, 14-year-old daughter, Sydney, and she's a high schooler. He's in the first grade, and yeah, they're very important to me. My wife is a high school principal, and she's been in that trade for about 10 years now, and you know, they always have my back in all my racing endeavors, and I have their back in their careers and their school and any type of activities, and it's been a lot of fun. You know, I never did any kind of sports growing up, so Sydney's been in soccer and swimming, and it's been fun to do those weekend activities that I never had a chance to do myself growing up.
Well, as you said, your wife's had your back, and so let's talk about the past couple of years. And life can turn on a dime, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It hit me square in the face, absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about that, kind of that day. I believe the story is you went to the dentist.
Yep.
Just for a little bit of dental work. And,
sure.
And life took a major turn.
Absolutely. One thing led to another. I was at the dentist, and they said, you have a little growth on the side of your tongue, and you probably should get that checked out. So I went to my family doctor. He took a look. You know, we better see ear, nose, and throat specialist. So I went to him. All right, well, you know, you have like a 1% chance, but we need to take a little sample of your tongue. Let's take a sample of your tongue tissue, see what comes back. I'm like, oh, 1% chance. Why are we even doing this, you know? But all right, let's go for it. So he takes a sample of my tongue, and I'll never forget, I was at home with Hudson. Got the 2 days, 36 hours later, let's say. The doctor calls up and says, Kyle? I said, yeah. He said, I have to talk to you. I'm like, yeah, what's going on? He says, well, you have squamous cell cancer. I said, oh, okay. Well, you know, here Hudson's shooting me with the damn water hose at the time. We're having a good time, and you're telling me I have cancer. I mean, it hit me like a ton of bricks. So, I mean, obviously, and so they said, you know, we need to start. We need to have. You're going to have a 6 or 7 hour surgery. Remove about a third of your tongue. And we're gonna go in, and we're gonna take care of this. So, you know, probably about 3 to 4 weeks later, we had the surgery. During the surgery, there was more cancer than anticipated. There was cancer in my lymph nodes. They took out about 30 lymph nodes, and said, well, you know, the cancer was a little more aggressive than we thought, but that just means that you're gonna have to have radiation. You're gonna have to have chemotherapy, and then, you know, things, by all means, everything should be back to normal. So we went through about 3 or 4 months of treatments there, radiation treatments and chemotherapy, and did that process. Everything was fine. You know, said, all right, well, everything should be good. And then probably about 6 to 9 months after I got done with the radiation chemotherapy, I developed a cough, and had this cough for about a month. And my wife said, listen, this isn't normal. So called up my oncologist, and she said, you know what, we should probably have a scan, see what's going on. And got the call, had the scan done. One scan thing, probably, well, you ever got a little cough, no big deal. And doctor calls up and says, well, I hate to tell you this, but you probably have 2 to 3 months to live. I'm like, what, 2 to 3 months to live? What are you talking about? Yeah, you have lung cancer now. The cancer that's transferred from your tongue to your lungs, and you have 2 to 3 months to live. And so, being as competitive as I am, I said, we're going to change this right away. So, the best that we could. So, came up with the game plan. Decided that, I had Kaiser, which Kaiser has pluses and minuses. I'll be the first to admit, but they were pretty much limited on what kind of treatment that they could give me. They've already given me a prognosis of living for 2 to 3 months. I was not taking that for an answer. So I have a lot of great friends, and decided they'd start pulling their money together to pretty much explore different options as far as treatment went. So we went over to MD Anderson. My wife, Peter, Emily, we teamed up, said, listen, we're going to come up with a game plan. Let's go to MD Anderson in Houston. That's one of the best Kaiser establishments there are in the nation. And then also Jake Coughlin, very good friend of mine, ours too, Peter, Emily, my wife Dana. He's had some connections at the James at Ohio State. And so we set up an appointment there. We said, we're going to go to MD Anderson, we're going to go to the James, figure out what they would do. We have a little bit of money that what people have donated. Let's take that money and figure out a plan here. So the 4 of us went to MD Anderson, had a very good visit with some doctors there. My wife flew home, Emily flew back to New York. Peter and I went to the James, had another good visit there, and we decided that the doctors at the James would work with Kaiser. They would come up with what they would work together, come up with a game plan that they thought would give me the best chance of survival. And luckily for me, I had a very young and aggressive oncologist at Kaiser that was willing to listen to the doctors at the James, that she got everything authorized, which was, I wouldn't say impossible, but I was very fortunate that they were able to work together, let's just say. And we started a very aggressive treatment plan there. And gosh, at this point, put it in the rearview mirror, but probably 6 to 9 months worth of treatment. And I've beaten stage 4 cancer at this point 3 times in my life now, so I'm very fortunate.
3 times?
Hold on, I didn't beat it, because it's come back twice now. I'm 3 times total, but I'm never going to say I beat it, but I have cancer in the corner, Warren. Let's just say that I got tucked in the corner. Things are getting back to normal, and I'm very happy, very, very, very fortunate.
So when you went to the dentist, or prior to that visit, did you anticipate anything? Did you feel anything?
No, nothing at all. Everybody always asks that, and to this day, they have no idea how I got the cancer, which to me is absolutely crazy. I mean, I had no symptoms. I didn't chew tobacco. I didn't smoke. I didn't have any of that, and no signs at all prior. Like, pretty much, I thought I was invincible. I really did. And everything happens for a reason. I've realized that at this point in my life, and maybe it was a way of grounding myself. But it was good. I mean, I wouldn't say it was good, but definitely made me more grounded. I realized that I can't control as much as I thought I could, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. But here we are. Like I say, we've gotten stage 4 cancer in rearview mirror 3 times now. So very, very, very lucky for sure.
Well, you've got 2 armbands on. I'm going to kind of ask you about both, but the first one on your left hand.
Yep, this is Team Chaos. That was a lot of the financial support that I received. People from all across the United States bought these wristbands as donations. And, I keep this on my wrist to realize that I'm not in this battle alone. We're all in this together. And the right one, Marco Perevalaris gave this to me. He says, trust the process. So whenever I get down and out or something, I look at this, Marco reminds me that trust the process. His family and father have been through some similar items, some similar things to myself, and that's how these 2 represent.
When you got the prognosis, did you have any idea that you had thousands of people across the country that were in your corner.
No, not at all. Absolutely not. It was astonishing. Is probably the right adjective to use. I had no idea. I knew I had a lot of friends, but and that's what got me through it. You know, when I was down and out, like anybody would be. There's highs and lows, and you know, I just remember that everybody has my back, and that really got me through a lot of these different, a lot of the lows in my life through this cancer battle. But no, to answer your question, absolutely not. I had no idea I had this much support nationwide. It's very, very eyebrow raising, very fortunate once again. But no, I had no idea I had this much support. Not at all.
Well, this would be a good opportunity. I know you've talked to a lot of people, as you always do, but if you could say anything to those people that supported you, what would you say?
It's thank you. You know, that's very cliche, but thank you. I mean, you guys got me through this. Unless you've been through cancer, you don't have no idea what it takes. You know, you got to really, really, really dig deep. And you know, whenever I have my doubts, I look at this wristband and I say, listen, I got people across the country counting on me, and you know, I would say thank you. Is you know, it's not even the right adjective to use, but what I would say is thank you to everybody. Absolutely. I mean, just the donations alone allowed me to explore different options that, you know, a lot of people didn't have. I've been through chemotherapy so much that, you know, I met a lot of people on this route, this cancer route, that weren't as fortunate as myself to have the options I had, and to have that financial support behind me has made all the difference in the world.
Well, one thing I can say, because even though I've known of you, I never met you until after your cancer situation.
Sure.
But it has always struck me, your positive attitude, having the right attitude about it. Talk a little bit about that and your approach.
I've always been a positive person. I always kid a good buddy of mine, Dan Fletcher. He always says the glass is half empty. I'm always a half full type of guy. So, you know, I've always had a positive attitude. And once I got diagnosed, my competitive side came in, and I always told myself that, listen, there's somebody out there that has this worse than I have it. And if there's somebody out there that has this worse than I have it and they're surviving, then I'm going to beat this, you know. So positive attitude along with not wanting to lose, it definitely got me through it.
If you look at your perspective on life before cancer and your perspective on life now, how much has it changed?
You know, a lot. Most obvious. I mean, obviously it's changed a bunch. You don't take the small things for granted. You know, anything from a meal at home with your family to a win light maybe not turning on. Your perspective is completely different. You realize that the small things in life aren't so small, and I'd say that you don't take things for granted. For sure, you have a whole different perspective, and don't take anything for granted, for sure.
Do you realize how much your fight inspires others?
You know, the older I get to that, I do, yeah. And you know, I've met a lot of people in this process that, you know, I try to look at perspective once again. That's what I've gotten out of this, a lot of this perspective, and you know, I've been fortunate. Believe it or not, John Schumacher, who I didn't know very much at all, helped me out a bunch. He had a very similar tongue cancer, and it's, you know, at my age, you don't really have anybody you could talk to that kind of get. I needed to have a coach, let's say, that, listen, you're going to have these emotions, you're going to have this to happen when you have chemotherapy, and Don was actually very informative and a very good friend that I could text at any time, and so the reason why I bring that up is I've tried to do that with other cancer survivors, to where things that got me through my cancer battle, I've tried to give them inspiration to do the same.
What relationships in your life have gotten you through it, and how have they helped you?
You know, I really can't pinpoint one. It's been, like I say, Don Schumacher. I could name probably 10 different individuals that have got me through this. But there's not just one. I mean, obviously my family support first and foremost, my friend support first and foremost, Peter and Emily instrumental. But it's not just one thing. It's just trying to take everything trying to combine everything into one big team. And I would say that's what's got me through it. Is not one individual, but the whole team concept got me through these battles.
If there were do-overs, what would you tell your younger self about what was going to happen in your life, and would you change anything about the way you lived your life?
Well, shoot, everybody has that, you know. I think that, I don't even know how to put this, but when I was growing up, my father and I dominated, but we never won a world championship. And, you know, he was, once again, very modest, what the best way to explain it is probably, I had big aspirations to be a world champion, a prominent racer. He was more small budget, let's just do everything on a very small scale. I wanted to be a world champion. So we had a lot of success together, but I decided to do other endeavors with I raced for a lot of different teams, which I wouldn't change at all at the time, but I would say if it changed anything, I would probably race with my father more than I did, just to have those memories, instead of I guess it was pretty much ego-based, really, to be honest with you. I wanted to have more opportunities than what my father could present, but I thought that my father was limiting my opportunities to a certain extent because he didn't have the aspirations to be a world champion. He just wanted to have, you know, for him it was mostly about, I wouldn't say dollars and cents, but for him it was more practical, and to chase a world championship, you're never going to make any type of money. But I had these aspirations to be a world champion. I wanted to branch out and race with other people, which has given me a lot of opportunities. But that being said, to change anything, I'd probably say that I'd race with my father a lot longer than I did, even though we still hang out together, but it's not the same. You know, I would say to change something, that's probably the main thing.
The people that are closest to you, what would they, if they were going to describe Kyle Seipel, what do you think they would say about you?
He's a crazy bastard. You never know what's going to come out of his mouth. No, who knows? You know, I try to treat people the way that I like to be treated, and I would hope that most would say that, you know, Kyle will have your back all the time. Yeah, that'd be important to me.
Well, I can tell you, when talking with Peter, the biggest quality that he talked about with you was that you put other people first. No matter what your situation is, that you put other people first.
That's cool.
It's always a good thing to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. That's important to me too. Yep, sure. I mean, I don't always do that, trust me, but I definitely always try to be coherent about that for sure. Yep.
If you're looking out at your future, how far out do you look, and what do you see?
Well, you know, everything that I've been through, you pretty much lived, I wouldn't say day to day, but you don't take a day for granted. So that being said, I don't have, you know, a 5-10 year plan. You know, I want to be the best husband, the best father, the best partner, the best friend, let's say, to Peter. I'd say I have short-term goals, and the short-term goals is to be, once again, the best in those, best promoter, the best track manager, the best father, the best husband, the best friend I can be, and that's most important to me. You know, racing has gotten me where I am, but that being said, I would say that that's the most important items, and you know, these spring flings have been the best thing that ever happened to myself, and we continue to grow those, and if we can, you know, still have success, have a good time, and continue to grow those events, that'd be important also.
You're still having fun.
Absolutely. That'll never change.
Hi, I'm Jeff Taylor, and I love this life.
I know we're down in southern Indiana, but your accent is a little further southern than that. Where are you originally from?
North Carolina. I grew up in Lumberton, North Carolina. That's about 60 miles from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, so I spent a lot of time there as well. But yeah, that's where this nice voice comes from.
How does a guy from North Carolina wind up down here in southern Indiana?
I built Bo Butner's engines since about the mid to late 90s. I was doing all of Bo's engine work for his super stockers and his comp cars. And 2004, I worked for my brother, Charlie Taylor, at Taylor Engines. I worked there for 30 years. And in 2004, he was starting to slow down a little bit, and I decided to go on my own and do my own deal. And so we sat down and I talked with Bo and his dad and mom, and at that time I was driving one of their comp cars. Me and Bo was kind of a two-car team deal, and we were doing well. And Mr. and Mrs. Butner offered me a 3-year deal to move here and take care of their cars. And I went out and bought the equipment we needed and set it all up in Bo's shop. And I worked there with Bo for 3 years. We both won the championship. I won in 05, he won in 06. We were very successful, really, really good team. We had some good people. And then in 2009, Bo was kind of slowing down a little bit there for a while and concentrating on business and stuff. So we built our own building up here. We had acquired a lot of customers in the area because Mr. Butner let me work on other people's stuff when I wasn't working on their stuff. As long as their stuff was all good and it didn't need anything, then I could work on other people's stuff, and my business really grew. And also I still had some of the people that I worked on in North Carolina that I still took care of. So we built a shop, me and my wife, and we liked it here. So that's how we ended up here.
Well, there's plenty of stock and super stock guys in this part of the country, and some pretty big names that have done well, and I see their Jeff Taylor Performance stickers on the hoods of those cars.
Yes, there's this is the heart of super stock and stock. The best of the best live around here. As you know, covering Division III, the car count is very big, and there's a lot of champions there when you go. So to win a race in Division III, it's pretty hard to do.
Well, you've done all right in winning races. Before we got started, you told me 48 national events and 48 divisionals. Of course, the 4 world championships, and we'll talk about that. So Is 50 and 50 a goal?
It is. I really hadn't given it a whole lot of thought when I got to 40. You know, I was more or less doing my own deal. I'd fulfilled my obligations with the Butners, and I was just part-time racing. You know, I'd race 3 or 4 times a year is all I could do, and it was somebody else's car. I was not in a position to have my own car and stuff. And then before you know it, you know, I'd go out west, and Jim and Jimmy DeFrank, they had an extra car. So when I'd go out to help Jimmy, they'd say, well, why don't you run this car? And I'd got lucky enough to pick up a race here and a race there, and now I've got up to 48. So somehow, if I can just stay healthy and just stay blessed, to be able to go do it, I'm going to try to win 50. 50 nationals is my goal. If I get 2 more points meets, that would be great. If I don't, I can be really happy with winning 50. As me and you talked earlier, there's people that's done this all their life and never won one. This is my life. That's all I do. I do it 7 days a week. Every minute that I'm awake, I'm thinking about it, trying to figure out how to get a little more power or a little better advantage, and make my program better. And I'm surrounded by a lot of good people. I've always said you're only as good as your contacts. When I run into something that I don't know or I don't understand, I know somebody that does, that I can call, that can help me. And but you know, a lot of people that do this, they work a job and they race on the weekends. I race 7 days a week. So, and again, I've put my whole life into it. I was at the racetrack when I was 3 weeks old. My mom was driving, you know, and so I've grew up there, and it's really all I know. And I've just been blessed to be surrounded by people that had confidence in me, that supported me. Like I was telling you earlier, I've been with Jegs for over 25 years. The Coughlin brothers, they're family. You know, they're not friends, they're family. And I learned so much from their dad, just not about racing, just about being a good person and being able to look at something and make it simple. He's a simple man, and one of the most intelligent people I've ever been around, about just normal life. And the record speaks for itself. I mean, look at the size of Jegs, and he made that. So I learned a lot from him. My brother, who I lost about a month ago, you know, I walked right in his footsteps. My dad died when I was 17, and my brother took me under his wing. He taught me everything I know that I know, and just he taught me how to think. I got a high school education. He had a college education, and he always told me, he said, all college does is teach you how to think. And he said, I can teach you that. So I look at stuff and I try to make it as simple as I can. I don't buy a lot of stuff. If I want something, I usually make it. I know sometimes I probably could buy it cheaper, but I think I understand it better when I make it and how it works. So, and the reason for that is because when we started, we didn't have the opportunity to go out and buy anything. If we wanted something, we had to make it. And that's just been a big background for me. But he taught me so much, and he gave up so much later in his career. There's no telling. He was a very good driver. There's no telling how many races he could have won. But in 1983, our business there was in North Carolina was doing good, and it was hard for both of us to be gone. We had 20 employees, and he said, you know what? He said, I'm going to stay here and take care of business, and you're going to race. And he stayed there and let me travel all over the country. And I run every national event. So if you think about all the races I've run for the amount that I've won, it's probably not too good. But I had a lot of good opportunities, and a lot of people seen that early on that I give it 110%, and that with the right tools that I was capable of winning races, and they spent money on me. Jimmy Morton, he was the first guy to ever really give me any kind of backing, and he done that. And the first year we won the world championship and 2 national events, won the U.S. Nationals. But it was all about having the money so that when you got to the race, I didn't have to worry about if I was going to get back to work on Monday morning. I wasn't going to get fired. I didn't have to worry about buying gas for the car or tires for the car, or if the motor blew up, I had a spare in the truck. I didn't worry about none of that. All I worried about was winning, because we had the backing to do it at that point. And again, we had earned that because we had took nothing and made something out of it, me and my brother, over the years. And so then after that, it was Steve Bagwell. We raced with him. Then Mark Klein, with Klein and Taylor cars. Arnie Martell. Harold Stout. He was a big influence in my racing. Harold was he was a good racer himself, and he brought me in on the Winnebago team as a teammate to David Rampy. David Rampy, well, I mean, he's
pretty good.
He's definitely the best. He's very, very good. I learned a lot from David Rampy, and so I traveled with him, and like I said, I've just been around a lot of people that knew a lot, and I try to keep my mouth shut and listen. That's why Warren Johnson told me one time, he says, "Why you got 2 ears and 1 mouth?" So, do a whole lot more listening than you do talking, and when people talk, I pay attention. So, and you learn a lot doing that.
You won 4 different world championships. Each one of them had to be a little bit different. Tell me about those championship years.
Well, the first one, 1981, a lot of people don't even know this. 1981 is the first year that Sportsman run for a championship based on points. 1980, they took, I think, the top 5 or maybe 10 in the division, and you were invited to the world finals, and you raced, and the winner was the world champion up until 1980. 1981 is the first year they done it by points. And my brother, at the same time I hooked up with Jimmy Morton, he hooked up with Harry Huntsberry, a guy in Maryland, who funded his Superstock program. And again, we were, it wasn't nothing like the kind of money that you would need nowadays. But man, it was enough that we didn't, we could afford to eat at McDonald's instead of eating potted meat and crackers, like we'd been used to. So, but we traveled that year. We went to Atlanta to the Southern Nationals, and my brother won Superstock, and I got to the semifinals in stock. And like 2-3 weeks later, the Cajun Nationals in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, we had got the National Dragster right before we left to go down there, and I won't never forget reading it. It said, history was almost made. Had I not red lighted in the semifinals, there was a chance that 2 brothers could have won 2 different eliminators on the same day. Well, we did that at the Cajun Nationals. We both won. He won Superstock and I won stock. And that's something we went on to do 4 times that year. Not at nationals, but at divisionals. And then I won Indy that year. So we both won 2 national events that year. We ended up winning the world championship. and that was 1981. So that was big for us, because the first race car I had, and I know I'm jumping around here a little bit on you, but I had $1,700 in it. It was a '68 Camaro, and people would come in and they'd get their motors rebuilt, and when they'd pick up their motor, I would ask them, you know, do you want your old rings or your old bearings or gaskets or whatever? And they, you know, no, just throw them away. And I saved that stuff. And I took all them old used parts and anything that was laying around the shop or anything that somebody would give me, and I built myself a race car. And I went to Darlington, South Carolina. They had an IHRA, which don't get me wrong, I'd raced it quite a bit before then, before I went there. But they had a national event in Darlington, South Carolina, the Winter Nationals. And I went down there and I won the race. And we were in the winner circle and getting our picture made, and we pulled the car out of the winner circle, and a guy walked up and he said, "Would you consider selling that car?" And I said, "Well, sure I would." And he said, "Well, what would you take for it?" And I said, $4,500. I had $1,700 in it. And he said, "Well, I know where your shop is and everything." He said, "I'll pick it up tomorrow." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, no problem." I didn't think no more about it. The next day, he showed up with the money and bought it. So then I took that and I built me a little bit better car, you know, and then I ended up winning another IHRA race that year with another car. And so that kind of led up to the 81 deal, you know. I mean, I'd been racing. I started going up and down the racetrack when I was 13 years old. So, you know, I knew a lot about racing at that point. So, or I knew how to race anyway, or at least I thought I knew how to race. So then we hooked up with, we raced 82 again with those same two guys, and we won a couple of races in 82 together. Matter of fact, that scrapbook thing shows a picture of me and him in the winner's circle at Atlanta, both with number 1 on the window. We both had won the race. So then 83 is when Jimmy decided to quit racing, Morton, and his business it got really big. He quit racing, and then Harry took his car, and that's when Charlie decided, you know, we got the Steve Bagwell sponsorship, and we got one car, and I need to be here more, so I took that and raced that, and actually I beat Bagwell in the 1983 Southern Nationals final. It come down between me and him, and I beat him in the final. So, and then, man, we were doing good. You know, we were like, we thought we were ready. So Bagwell wanted to run Pro Stock. So we said, well, we'll do that. So we tried Pro Stock. That was a big mistake. That was a big mistake. We like lost everything we had because that's all we worked on every day instead of taking care of business. And we got in bad financial trouble from 84 to 85, 86 because we kind of let our business go and concentrated on the Pro Stock thing. And we built us a big motor and run over there, and we done okay. But not enough. That thing could eat more money than you could even think about. So we finally sold that, concentrated on our business, got our business going again, and that's when we met Mark Klein. He wanted to race, and he bought a 18-wheeler and built 2 new cars, and we done the engines. We done all the work and built the cars and everything. Ed Quay done the cars, and then we finished them. And we started that in 87, racing with him, and had a little bit of success. And then 88, I won the world championship with that car. And then I got the eye of little Oldsmobile's attention, you know. So then Oldsmobile, come and talk to us, Arlen Fadley and Eddie Bennett come and sat down and said, we'd like to put you in an Oldsmobile, and they give us a nice sponsorship. So we built the Calais, the first Calais, and we raced them in '89 and '90, and that was a big learning curve getting that front wheel drive thing with getting them. It took a couple of cars before we really got a good car that would go down the racetrack twice the same. And we finally got that worked out, and won the championship in '91 with that. And then after that, the Joe Amato, we picked up a Joe Amato deal and that Key Auto Parts thing he had, and we had some funding, so we were able to go a lot. And then Harold Stout, he put the Winnebago team together, and I become a part of that and traveled pretty hard there for 3 or 4 years. And then in '96, the end of '96, Jeg, they wanted to expand their racing program, and I was building his engines for his Super Stocker, and so we worked out a deal, and I went to Jegs for 2 years and helped them, and helped them with their racing program, and we were successful there, done very well. Me and Jaggy run in the final a couple of times, and he won a lot of races. And then after I left there, I went back to North Carolina, and I raced a little S10 truck, and then Arnie Martell come along. He wanted to do a 7-car team, so we did. That was a handful, but Arnie was a handful too, as everybody knows. But he had the best of the best. In 2002, we won. I won 7 national events, and he won 2 that year. So we had just a fantastic year. We had a great team. We had all good people. Arnie had plenty of money. Money was just not even ever a question. It was just like, if we need it, get it. So that was a good deal for us. And then, after Arnie shut down and quit, then I done the Butner thing and won the championship in '05, and that's how I got here.
So to get the 4 championships, you had to start somewhere. So that would have been back in North Carolina?
That's right. 1973 is when I first started going up and down the racetrack. I had a little Simca, a little 4-door Simca, about the size of a golf cart, and I'd had it since I was 8 years old. Tell you how I got it. It's good. It kind of just goes along with me telling you how I made everything. I mowed grass one summer, and I went with my dad to a Chevrolet dealership, and they had 2 Simcas, S-I-M-C-A, Simca, okay? Probably a lot of people don't even know what that is. And they were out in the back of the place where he was back there trying to get some parts off of a car. And the guy that owned the Chevrolet dealer was a good friend of my dad's, and he just come back there to see my dad. And I asked him, I said, "I'd like to have them 2 little cars. What would you take for them?" And he said, "Oh, I don't know, probably $75 for both of them." That was in probably '72. So, and I had about 100 from mowing grass at $2 or $3 a yard, So I said, "Oh, okay." So on the way home, I convinced my dad that I needed those cars. And he says, "Well, if you're going to get them, you're going to have to buy them." He said, "I'm not buying them for you." I said, "Well, I'll buy them." So I took my money and I bought those 2 little cars. One of them, the body was just terrible on, but had a brand new motor in it. And the one that was real nice, the motor was blown up in it. So at 8 years old, I changed the motors. I took the motor out of the bad one, the new motor, and I put it in the other one, and I got it running. I'm not going to tell you I didn't have to ask my brothers, hey, you know, can you help me lift this, or how does this work, or whatever. But for the most part, I'd say 80% of it I'd done myself. And I got it running, and I drove it around in the yard. We had a pretty big place down there, and I just drove it around out there. It had a 4-speed in it, and I drove all around. And a guy named John Higgins, he owned Federal Drag Strip, and he was good friends with my dad. And I kept, as I got older, and he'd come down to the shop, and he'd see me out there in that little car riding around and driving and stuff. And I kept telling him, you know, you need to let me race my little car. And he said, you're not old enough. You just can't let you do that. Finally, when I turned 13, and I was a big 13. I mean, I looked like I was 17, you know, because I was a pretty big boy. He said, I'm going to let you run. So I talked my brother, not Charlie, but my other brother, I talked him in to hooking it behind my dad's wrecker and pulling it to Fayetteville, which is about 25 miles for me. and man, I got up there and I raced that thing. And it wasn't too long before I got where I could win with it. And it was quarter-mile racing back then, and it would run on a real cool day. You're talking about dialing something in. On a real cool day, it would run like a 21 flat in the quarter. On a hot day, it'd run 2350. I mean, it would change 2 seconds from, you know, a 50-degree day to a 100-degree day. But that's where I started, going up and down the racetrack, right there in Fayetteville, North Carolina, in a damn 1967 Simca. And I have looked I got people all over the world that I work for. I got people everywhere trying to find me one. If I ever find one, I'm going to buy it, just so I'll have it. I just want to have one, you know, just because that's where I started. But that's how I got going. And then as you know, I got older, 16, 17 years old, and my brother would bring customers, would drop their cars off to get a motor rebuilt. And you know, back then they would just bring their whole car, and you'd take the motor out and rebuild the motor for them, and maybe transmission or whatever, and put it all back together and take it to the track and test it. And I got to the point to where I would run some of those cars, and you know, and testing and stuff like that. And Fred Atkinson, his son is Jeff Atkinson. Fred Atkinson was a big player in getting me started as well, because Fred, just like Jeff, as soon as it was time to plant peanuts, he couldn't race. So he would just bring the car and let me keep it, and I would race it. And just like I did Jeff's for a long time, and during peanut season, Jeff would just bring me his whole rig up here, and I would race his cars. So Fred and the Atkinsons have been a big part of my racing, you know, helping me get going and stuff. But yeah, it all started down there with Bobby Warren. Learned a lot watching him. You know, Bobby's won the championship a few times and won races. He was very good, and we raced him every weekend. He won I think it was 78 or 9. Bobby won the championship. I won't think it was 78, but anyway, he won the championship. And that's when you just went out there and won the race, and you were the world champion. And he got back home, and a couple of weeks later they had a local race, and back then it wasn't bracket racing. Back then it was class racing. And I had to run Bobby, and I beat him. he just won the world championship, and the next time he raced, I beat him. And so that was a big deal. And but that didn't happen very often. Bobby, he was very, very good. He was a good racer, and he was good to me and my brother. The time I was telling you about when we messed around there and lost everything we had messing with the pro stock car. Bobby Warren's actually the guy that helped get us turned around and showed us kind of, this is what you guys need to go do because you can make a lot of money. And it was building remanufactured engines is what we were doing for regular cars. He had started it, and he guided us in that and showed us. We started doing it, and we were building about 1,200 a year, remanufactured motors. And man, we come back. In 2 years, we come back strong. And I'd have to thank Bobby Warren for what he done, you know, helping us with that. But yeah, there's a lot of good people down in that part of the country that helped me a lot. In this shop, I mean, a lot of times I get in there on the dyno, and you start running something, and you just, what did I miss here? I missed, this just is not doing what it ought to do. And usually I know somebody I can call and tell them what's going on. Well, you got the wrong valve spring on that. Put this valve spring on it and try it, or a carburetor, or something that you just, it's right there, but sometimes you just can't see it, But yeah, having good people is huge.
Well, staying young's got to be part of staying in the race car too. I mean, you can still turn on wind lights out there. A bunch of younger people.
I think you're right there. The staying in the race car, I think, helps a lot because, like, we get through the holidays and then it's time to go to Pomona, and you race all year long. You never slow down. You're going, just like you are. I mean, you're gone every weekend doing something. Well, we're the same way. And if we're not racing, we're testing or doing something. And I don't know. It's like you don't get a chance to age or something. Or at least your body ages, but your mind, The one thing that David Rampey told me 5-6 years ago, me and him were talking one day, and I had done something. Actually, it was at the Gator Nationals 2017, I think. I won with this car right here. Won the Gator Nationals. The week before, I run somebody first round, and I dialed, and I caught them, and I just got down there and just took my foot off the gas and just rode down through there and just coasted alongside of them and took 800s wind light to break out 2000s. And I mean, in my mind, I know I've killed plenty. There's no way I'm breaking out. But I did, because I didn't finish. I didn't finish the race. You're supposed to take a foot or give 10 foot. That's the rule. That's what you do. And I went down there and didn't finish the race. I got him and I just coasted by and broke out. And I was telling David about it, and he said, that's the only thing that I can say. He says, I can still hit the tree as good as I ever have. And I feel like I still can. And hit it as good as but I make stupid mistakes. A couple of years ago at Atlanta, I'm going down the track in this thing here, and I forget to shift it. It shifts 1-2 automatically. I leave the starting line, and I'm catching the guy, and I know I got him beat, and I'm just riding along there. I forget to shift it in high gear. I'm like, this is not the first time I've drove a car, but it looked like it. So that's the thing I see as you get older in the racing. You'll make mistakes that you just wouldn't have made 20 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever. But and then David confirmed that for me. So he done the same thing. So I don't know if that's the right thing, but it did make me feel better to know that he done the same kind of stuff once in a while.
You got the Jag shirt on. You got this beautiful Mopar behind you. Tell me what's going on with Jegs and you and where we're at.
Well, again, over 25 years, their name's been on my race car, and they've helped me in some form for over 25 years. And so I drove this car at Indy last year, and this car's got a funny story. When we first got it together and they went out and run it and stuff, and Jeggy called me and he said, JT, he said, we're dropping that car off at your shop. He said, I don't want it back to Little Winter Race. I said, okay, that's fair enough. So he dropped it off and we went through it, and just like I was talking about, and fixed stuff. We went out and tested and we got it really good. I took it to Gainesville to a divisional race they had down there, and I won. So I called him, I said, it's ready. Well, he come and he picked it up, and then just months later, he doubled at the Sports Nationals with it, So it's a great car, and it's just sitting. And Jag told me, he said, I don't want the thing just sitting. He said, why don't you come get it and race it? And so me and him worked out a deal, and we were hoping to get a lot of. Me and him done the numbers. He's like, this is the 50th year of Pro Stock. I'm going to be 50. It's the 60th year of Jegs, and you're going to be 60. He said, JT, the numbers just line up. Let's do this. So I went and got it, and the game plan was to obviously start at the Gator Nationals with it, but we haven't been able to go nowhere. But we will, and I'm pretty sure he'll let me keep it as long as I want to. So.
Well, maybe you'll get those numbers to line up and get
that would be
those
great.
2 more and get your 50 Nationals.
That's what we were thinking. I was just thinking maybe I could line us up and maybe we can win that 50th national event with this car. And I think with the Jegs thing, and then I got a deal working with a friend of mine down in Texas to drive a comp car. Me and him's been wanting to do something for quite some time, and he's kind of got bored and wanted to do something, and he called me and he said, man, I want to put a car together, but I want you to drive it. So I said, well, I'll drive it. So it's David Nickens. He's putting together a B-altered automatic, and I'm going to drive that later in the year. And David's working, I think he's got a really good sponsor he's going to be announcing pretty soon. And that'll be fun.
So how far along is he with the car?
He picked it up from paint last week. The motor is about 50% done. We hope to do some testing probably August. I don't think we'll take it to Indy, but that's kind of up in the air. We're probably looking at maybe Dallas, Houston, starting, down there close to his area, and then maybe run Vegas and Pomona. Get ready for, a good hard shot next year.
A Mopar combination?
It's a Stratus, but it's going to have a GM motor in it.
Oh.
So that way I had the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that,
Yeah.
because you're known, especially in your championship
Yeah.
years, with GM products.
Yeah.
But you also do quite a lot of Hemi work.
That's what I'm saying. I was going to just tell you, we probably work on more Chrysler engines now. I'd say it's at least 50% of what we do is Chrysler engines anymore. We build a lot of these Hemis. We build probably 40, 50 of these Hemis a year.
Wow.
So we do over 100 motors a year here. And, for 3 people, that's pretty good. It's all I want to do. I don't want to do no more. And so we average between 110 and 120 every year. is what we do. And that don't mean nothing about the machine work. We do a lot of machine work for, you know, a lot of other people that race in this area. We do all their machining, get them their parts, and then they'll put it together and then come over and dyno. So we do a lot of that as well. But we had a good plan till the coronavirus showed up. So
Very true.
But it'll pass, and we'll get back racing sometime.
Well, to stay on the engine building line a little bit, not only do you build race motors, but you're doing a lot of street rod work now these days too.
Yep, we do a lot of street rod stuff. Probably half of what we do street rods anymore. We do a guy named Bobby Alloway, Alloway's Rod Shop down in Knoxville, Tennessee. He builds probably about the nicest street rods there is out there. And Bobby don't do nothing normal. We just finished 2 429 Boss Fords and a all aluminum Hemi. If you build him a LS motor, because he thinks a LS motor is absolutely the ugliest motor there's ever been. But a lot of people want LS motors. But when you do something for Bobby LS, it's got to look like something. It can't look like LS. So we make adapters, and we put on around the valve covers, and we put a big valve cover on it, and we'll put a front drive distributor on it, and put the distributor in the front, run the wires through the valve cover, and when they come out, then they go to the spark plug under it. But when you walk up there and look at it, it'll look like a Hemi. You know, I mean, it looks like a Hemi, like a Gen 3 Hemi or something like that. So he won't do nothing. We're building a couple of SB2s for him right now, and we're building a 241, 1953 241 baby Hemi. I mean, he won just about everything they had at SEMA last year with an Edsel that he done. It was actually in the NHRA booth out there. It's an Edsel, and you know, it had a Coyote in it, and so we do a lot of stuff for him, and that's been a real big deal for us. I think we got about 12 motors going for him right now, and so I enjoy that. I enjoy that more than I would just building 632 cubic inch bracket motors, you know. And you know, I enjoy it. It's fun to just take a LS motor and make it look like a Hemi, you know, or whatever, you know, he might want. So it's not that we won't build a 632 or whatever, you know, if somebody wants one, but I mean, where my passion is more into the NHRA stuff and my street rod stuff.
So you've got a lot to hang your hat on, a lot of things to be satisfied. What brings you the most satisfaction?
I still enjoy winning. You know, I enjoy winning. That's still a lot of fun. I enjoy it, and I cherish it, because you never know when it's going to be the last one. You know, because I've been for years and not win. I win, and then go for 5 years and not win. You know, and you start to think, you know, it's time to hang up the hat. You know, and then all of a sudden you start winning again. So I enjoy winning, but the one thing I think I enjoy the most right now in my career is like this past Saturday. We went to Ohio Valley. Irvin Johns and a few other guys rented the racetrack. You know, it was a limited deal. They could only have so many people and so many cars. And we went out there and tested, and we had done some work to some of his engines over the winter, and to go out there, and we had 2 new combinations, and it's going to take a couple more test sessions to get them where they need to be. We had some parts that was not correct that in the transmission and converter area, and we knew we didn't have the right parts, but we thought at least we can run the car down the track and tune on it some and work on that. Now we just got to get it right in the first 60 feet, and it's going to be fast. But then his car, it was really fast, and I really get a lot out of that. You build it, and then you go to the racetrack, and the customer runs it, and it runs fast, and he's happy, and that's a big deal to me. I really enjoy testing more than I do racing. I love to go test, and the people that go test with me, by the end of the day, they don't want to test with me usually again, because I went to Orlando with some customers early in the year, in February before the season started, and we'd make a run and come back, and I'm charging the battery, and I'm doing this, making changes and to the tune up and working on the car, moving weight around, doing stuff like that, and I'm like, okay, let's go. Well, I just got out. I was like, I know, let's go. I mean, and I just by the end of the day, they've made 10 or 12 runs, and they're like, man, you're killing me. I'm like, but I enjoy testing. I do, and because I learn, we're learning stuff, and then I can, what I learned there, I can bring it back here and relate it to here, and it just makes everything, work better, and so I enjoy that. But I still like crawling in that race car and going down that racetrack. I still do. For some reason, I still like driving my race car, and as long as I still enjoy it, and I feel like I have a chance of winning, and I'm not just spinning my wheels, I'm going to keep doing it. But I really believe I'll know when that time is. I do. And like I told you, it's not that much further away.
All of that knowledge that you've gained over the years, handcrafting these machines and going out and learning and testing, are you able to impart that on other people, or is that going to go with you?
It's going to go with me. These kids that work here, they're going to continue to do well. But as far as the racing part of it goes, I don't know. The one person that really listens and pays attention and takes notes, and he's a 5-time world champion now, is Jimmy DeFrank. And Jimmy DeFrank, if I said, Jimmy, you know what? I believe if we took the back tires and put on the front and the front on the back, that this thing would be better. And I'm sure we could win doing that. He'd try it. Because he has that much confidence in me. And me and him race so good together. And we have we've won a lot of races together, and I'm super proud of what he's done. He's not only is he just a good person, man, he's just he's just a perfectionist. Everything he does in the race car, in his business, in his life, and I think that I've been a big part of that. So if any part is probably gonna, anything that I've been able to teach, he's probably absorbed more of it than anybody has. You know, but I've worked with him for a long time too. You know, me and him's really worked hard together, racing and studying, and they don't nobody go to a racetrack in sportsman. The only other person I know that works as hard preparing to win as Jimmy DeFrank is Dan Fletcher. And I always say, and my saying is, the will to win is not as important as the will to prepare to win. I learned that from Ron Folk. So, and I learned that at an early age. He had it on his car, and I read it one time, and I thought about it, and I thought about the truth in it, and you got to get ready to win. You got to do more. You got to take out more mistakes than the other guy. That's how you win. And there's so much with what you do, and the NHRA, the live timing, all the things that's available. If you use them things to what they can help you with, but it takes work. It takes work. It takes, at the end of the day, and you shove the car in the trailer, and you go and you drink beer and cook out and do all that, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's okay if that's what somebody wants to do. They went, you know, and they want to hang out with their friends and have a good time that night. That's all good. That's what they chose to do. But the people that's winning, they're in there studying, and they're taking notes, and they're going back through all your notes from the day when all that stuff, and they're writing down everybody's stuff. I mean, you probably look in either one of these cars right now from the last race I was at, and what everybody's doing is wrote down on a piece of paper in there. And I sit back there and I watch it, you know, and I learn, you know, I watch that stuff. But it takes a lot of work. I mean, you know, you got to go get it, and you got to go that extra mile. And man, those two guys, them two guys right there, Jimmy and Dan, they can tell you what anybody's doing at any time. You know, they write a dial in on their car, and them two guys will tell you, he can't run that, or he's breaking out, or they're just good, but they work hard. They work hard at it. So, but yeah, as far as my racing knowledge, the things that, how I look at the air and how I dial a car and stuff like that, Jimmy DeFrank would be the guy that's picked up more of it than anybody else that I race with. Jeff Atkinson follows it pretty good, but Jeff races completely different than I race. You know, there's no telling what he might dial. He might dial 1,500. He might hold 1,500s, or he might hold 2. You know, I mean, that's the way he races. You know, and he does good, but I don't race that way. So, even with the sickness that we got going on right now, man, I come down here every day. I mean, the kids that work for me, they were off for a while, you know, and couldn't come. But me and my wife didn't miss a day. We were here every day, and we got a lot of stuff done, and I enjoyed it. It was quiet, but I really like it when they're here. We have fun. So as long as I can have fun and I enjoy it and I can make a living doing it, I'm gonna hang in there. I'd like to do it, in all due respect, 7 to 10 more years, somewhere in that ballpark is what I'd like to do. But I don't see me doing this when I'm 75 or 80 years old. This is not what I plan on doing. I don't plan on trying to figure out how I'm going to make a car run 500s faster. But somewhere between 65 and 70 years old, somewhere in that ballpark. I want to try to hopefully stay healthy and, you know, be able to enjoy some other stuff. But this has been fun. It's been great. Racing's been good to me. It's given me a life that people only dream of. You know, I say this a lot, and you probably can agree with me because you do the same thing I do. I can get in this truck right now, and I can drive to California, or I can drive to Seattle, Washington, or I can drive to Maine, and I'll never be more than 2 hours away from somebody that I can't call that will come help me. There's not a lot of people that can do that. But drag racing people in general, not just drag racing people in general can say that. You know, the people that travel all over this country, you know, and go to these races and stuff, there's somebody usually within a 2 hour range of you at all times that will come and help you. And you know what they'll want? Nothing. And you know, that's one thing I remember about my brother in the early years, you know, when he would help somebody at the race. You know, they'd come over and say, well, you know, I'm having a problem with my carburetor, or I'm doing, you know, or this or that or whatever. And he'd go over and he'd look at it, and usually he would fix it for them. And then they'd say, you know, well, what I owe you? Well, you know, just go try it and see what happens. And they'd go out and run, and it'd be right, you know, and it would do good. Then, boy, they'd just come flying over to the truck. You know, hey, how much I owe you, man? That work, I've been working on that for 2 months, and I haven't been able to fix it. And he's like, you know what? Somebody else will need help one day. Just help them. That was his answer, you know. And I was like, so I do a lot of that still.
You miss your brother?
Yeah, you know what? I find myself, you know, pulling my phone out to call him, you know, and he's not there. He was so good with numbers, you know. I mean, he knew he was a mathematician, you know. I mean, which that's what he graduated from. University of North Carolina with the highest grade that had ever been recorded in that school when he graduated in 1973. And he was just, man, he was smart. He was, when it come to numbers, you know, he didn't beat him. But yeah, I missed the fun times we had. Boy, we had a lot of fun. You know, we took nothing, and we had fun with it. Nothing, you know. I mean, we had motors that had 4 and 5 different pistons in them, different brands, you know. And, you know, a head off of something else on this one and that one, and just unbelievable. I mean, the mess it's all we had. It's what we had, you know, and we took that and were able to win with it enough that we attracted the eyes of people that had money to help us. And then once we got that, we were able to go, you know. But yeah, he was smart, and he taught me a lot, and I won when I won. I guess one thing that makes this 50 so important to me, when I won the World Finals last year, me and him were talking during Christmas, and he said, you know, I'm proud of you. And I said, I appreciate that. I said, you made me. He said, I'll tell you what though, he said, you can only do so much with somebody that it takes, they got to want to help themselves. And he said, what you've done to take where me and you started and what we started with and get this far along, you know, he said, could you have ever dreamed that you'd win 50 national events or 48 national events? I said, I couldn't ever dream winning one. When we started, you know, we watched Bobby Warren win and we thought, man, that is so cool. Man, you know, and I won 48. And I told him, I said, you know, it's getting a lot harder and these kids are tough, man. They're hard to beat. And I said, I told him, I said, I think I'm about had enough. And he said to me, he said, we put our whole life into this. He said, you've got to win 50. He said, somehow or another, man, he said, I know you got 2 more in you. And now he's gone. So I got to try. I might not get them, but I'll go down trying, you know. I'll give it my best. And I owe it to him. And I'm gonna try. And I like my chances. I got a good race car sitting right there, and I got another good one going together in Texas. And if I can just, you know, stay healthy, I want it worse than I ever have in my life right now. For that reason, and it's going to be, it's going to happen somehow. I believe it's going to happen. And like I said, if it don't, you know, at least I know I give it my best. So we'll try.
So when you hang it up, what's your legacy?
I had a plan, but it kind of got changed. You know, things change in life, and that plan changed as to what I'm doing. Now I have a new plan. I know what my plan is now and where I'm going. Me and my wife she's absolutely my best friend. You know, I don't want to go nowhere without her, and she's the same way. We do everything together. We race together. We go for a walk. You know, we walk every night. We do that together. We're just, and at some point, you know, when the time's right and we can, we're gonna close up and we're gonna sell everything, and then we're gonna go for a lot of walks on the beach. You know,
You missed out on a lot of those over the years, haven't you?
Yes, I have. Yeah, but we're gonna enjoy that. You know, we got grandkids and probably more on the way, and we're gonna enjoy them. But for now, man, I still love what I'm doing. I look forward to, you know, my house is right outside the door here. Man, I look forward to, I walk down here some mornings and I'm walking down and it's just, the sky's beautiful and I think, man, if heaven's better than this, man, I can't imagine how great it's going to be.
Over the 17 years, can you imagine your life without her?
No. No. No, she, you know, I don't even know how to make an invoice. She, you know, I feel like I make a paper. When we build motors, we fill out a paper, we write everything down. When we build it, I give it to her, and then I got a deal, you know, where my labor charges, everything we do, and she does it. I don't even know how to turn on the computer in there. so no, it's been a total 100% 50-50 effort. Sometimes maybe she's 60 and I'm 40, but yeah, she's been it's just been a great partnership, and you're married to your best friend. How much better can that be? So, but yeah, we're gonna work some more and get a little bit better, and then we're gonna enjoy it.
Head for the beach.
We're gonna head for the beach. Yep. Yep. So, and then after we're there for about 6 months, we'll decide we need to go racing. So, but anyway, somewhere.
Hi, I'm Bo Butner, and I love this life.
We're here in, where are we?
Clarksville, Indiana.
Clarksville, Indiana.
Yes.
Yes. So is Clarksville home for you? Is this where you grew up?
Clarksville's close to home, so tight community here. Louisville, Kentucky, across the big city, right? Across the river. Then we have these little towns, New Albany, Indiana, Floyd's Knobs, Indiana, then Clarksville. So grew up in Floyd's Knobs, Indiana. Been here my whole life. It's about 15 miles from here, up on the hill, so we kind of look down over top of everything. Yeah, been here my whole life.
And we're sitting here at Jim Butner Auto. This is the business that your dad started.
Yeah, he started very small. He worked for a car dealership in the early 50s. Started his own deal in 1955 down the road in New Albany. Little bitty 2-room brick building. Decided that there's a lot of good people that maybe had some credit problems. So he decided way back then how people that couldn't get finance because a lot of banking and stuff were tough, and they went through a lot of stuff. But he decided he would stand behind them and finance them himself. So he started with nothing, absolutely just nothing, and just worked his way up. And we have had such a following since 1955. And this is our second location from the first. He built this with a couple old trailers with gravel lots. That's what this whole place was, full. I mean, probably 300 cars out there, just stacked where you couldn't even walk between them. And so many people would come in, and of course the sales were in the front, and in the rear was where you collect payments. And so many people would come in and make payments, they actually wore the concrete steps off walking up to the trailer. So he had a good niche of just helping good people, and he's taught me that you don't look at a credit score. People aren't paper. So we actually still to this day set one-on-one with each person to make every deal. It's not a credit score. It's not who you didn't pay or who you do pay. It's all about that. And we're pretty good at, I mean, there are some con people, but don't get me wrong, but pretty much there's a lot of good people that's had some credit problems.
No matter what kind of condition somebody's in, you're able to kind of figure out a way to help them out a little bit?
Yeah, and what we try to do is, which we've all needed this help before, sometimes you don't really know how much you have coming in and what you have going out. So a lot of people will say, yeah, I can pay you $500 a month. Well, we try to sit down with them and say, hey, you know, looking at your bills, and you got to include insurance, cost of living, I mean, and upkeep. You mean I might need to be $250 or $300, so let's get you in something like that. And a lot of them take that great. I mean, because especially some of the generations, they just want. Doesn't matter. We don't care what it costs. But we try to steer them in the right way. And don't get me wrong, I want to keep them as customers forever. But hopefully by the time they buy 1 or 2 cars here, they can go anywhere and have a reputation of paying. And that's all anybody wants. But still, when we're still small, and when you're in the big corporate world, they try to go to banks. It's all about paper.
Did you get to spend time working with your dad? You grew up here in the dealership.
Yes, I grew up from a very young age, probably 5-year-old on. He would travel all over Indiana, Anderson, Indiana, Muncie, Indiana. We'd travel everywhere going to auctions. My mom, myself being young, and him. And we'd spend the night at motels, and I'd go to auctions with him at the age of 5. So I was actually buying for our dealership at the age of 15. So I had to have a guy work for us, drive me to all the auctions, and I wasn't old enough to drive. And I go to some of these auctions and buy 30 to 50 cars. And they're wondering, how is this young kid buying so many cars? And what we learned in our business is, first of all, there's nothing on my lot that I won't drive personally, because why should I expect somebody to want to buy it if I won't drive it? So, and you can't pay too much for a good car. It changes the profit margins a lot, but you have to have a good car, and you have to have something desired. Because these people, a lot of people live week to week, and part of living is their car payment. But my goal is I don't want them working for their car payment. You know what I mean? They still have to have a life. And so that's worked out good for us, and it's just sitting on the one-on-one and so many relationships we built. I mean, these customers are like family members to us. They watch all my racing. They tell me how, no, that girl sure got you off the line, or that young Tanner kid got you this and that. I mean, it's a lot of fun, and it's a big racing fan world here around here, and it's neat to be a part of that too.
And as I understand it, it's continued on to the next generation. Your son is part of this operation now, right?
Yes, my son's definitely as I've been pro stock racing the last 5.5 years, I mean, he's really had to step up. But and not only him, I mean, he does the dealing up front, but it's such a group around back. From a lot of family members to just a lot of friends been with us forever, which we all consider family. But my mom, she's 82. She's still involved every day. And I'm keeping her home during this whole pandemic deal, which is killing her because she will show up every day. Likes to say hi to people. A lot of the customers like to come say hi to her, but she's still very much involved. I've got a sister that actually lives with her since my father passed, and she runs all the HR, pays all the bills where I spend all the money. So all that works good. And then we have Christy. Y'all might know her, from Randy Lynn's sister. She's a big part of my Bow Nose, which is my second location. And she does a lot of title work. And it's just such a good group of people. I have a service shop with 5 guys. My daughter, my youngest daughter, just stepped up, and she actually runs it now. So, and my oldest son will tell you, she knows more about cars than I do. So, and she actually does. She does very well. But it's good to have people you depend on. And then I've missed spending this time with them for the last 5 years being on the road. And this little offset time we've had, I look at it as maybe for everybody, God's gave us a reset button. So maybe it's time we sit back and you figure out what's really important in life. So it's good I love the fans. I love the racing. I love our racing family. It's a lot of fun, but I have missed these people I've missed out on.
A year ago, you almost imposed your own reset button and you'd announced your retirement, and then all at once, here you are again.
Yeah, that was, my mind was made up, probably middle of the season, and as it got closer, I was okay with it. I mean, it actually came till the Sunday of Pomona at the end of the year, and my mom always comes out to the last race, and we go to the banquet, and she's, a lot of the fans comes up, she loves to tell me, hey, somebody's out here, they need a hero card signed or something. And we're sitting on a golf cart, and she says, you sure you want to give this up right now? I'm like, do what? Because out of all the people, for one, she never wanted me to run 200 mile an hour or anything. Okay, she always had these rules that we've managed to kind of break a little bit. But she enjoys it, enjoys talking to people, and it's just like being here, just seeing the new people. They all have a story, and you learn a lot, and I enjoy it. But that time's coming close again, and I just had a grandson last year. He turned 1 through this, so we couldn't even really have a party for him. But a lot of stuff's changing. I definitely think racing's going to change probably forever in certain ways. So we'll see what happens. But NHR has been great to me. The folks at Mellow Yellow have treated me good. They put a lot of faith into me for some reason, some country boy from Indiana. But I get a lot of calls from them on what's going on, how we're doing, and it's been cool. The sponsors, the Strut Masters came on board this year. Chip's a great guy. And I've never been one to ever go out and really look for sponsors. I mean, I'll take some help, don't get me wrong, but I've always had my dad's name on the side of all my cars from day one. And then Chip came along and we made a deal, but it's just a good group of people we're around all the time. So I get along with all of them so far.
So far.
Yeah.
Well, aside from the car dealership, tell me a little bit about your dad. What do you remember about him growing up? And
well, I hear stories because he was a little older. I mean, I have some half brothers and half sisters, of course, but I'm 15 years younger than the next one. So my mom and he met. They were both married prior, but got a good tight family, kind of like Brady Bunch, 3 and 3 or however that was. But then that came along. So I don't know if I was an accident. I'm not sure. I probably wasn't planned. So, but growing up, he was very fortunate. He started from nothing. He made a good living, but he never let us know that. I mean, it was tight. I mean, he didn't spend any money. He'd reinvest. He'd reinvest in his company. And I remember he'd show up with a new car every now and then at home. But like if we go get ice cream, like my mom tells me time they went and got ice cream and she wanted a waffle cone. Well, he wouldn't pay the difference for a waffle cone over a regular cone. He said, you don't need that. And then as I get older, been times like, hey, I like to get a new couch for my house. And he'd be the type, well, what's wrong with your old couch? And do you need to spend the money? And that's coming from nothing because he and his mom and dad split up. There's 4 of them, four sons, 2 twins, and then he had an older brother. They split up. My dad and the older brother moved down here with my grandpa, which was a parole officer down here. Then my other two stayed up in Indianapolis. They're originally from Indianapolis. My other two uncles were twins with their mom. But my grandpa couldn't handle them because my oldest uncle was wild. He was like I used to be when I drank. And this is what's funny. His name was Bob Butner. Everybody called me Bob back then for some reason, because B.O. then Butner. So I was known as Bob when I drank a lot and partied. So it's kind of a funny story too. But my grandpa couldn't handle him, so he put him like in an orphanage. Well, about 2 weeks, my dad ran away every night and would show back up at my grandpa's house. So my dad was the type that actually went right here local to New Albany High School. And just a neat freak. I mean, you can see some of his cars and he would die. You saw how dusty he was because he would just die because he's the type that would wear a really nice shirt, but it would be hung up in his car going to high school, and he wouldn't put his shirt on until he got out. I mean, no wrinkles. Everything had to be perfect. But that's the way he lived his life. But he came, again, from nothing. And I think once you work for that and you have to build it, it probably means something different for you. But I've been fortunate. I've been able to have what I want. But now getting older and having the kids and having a grandkid, you do see where you have to still work hard and keep your stuff nice. And luckily that all of mine have pretty much picked up on that also. But it's just a different generation out there. It's tough.
Your birth certificate doesn't say Bo.
No. Bo, I'm actually James Earl Butner III. My dad was a junior. My grandpa was a senior. To get it even more complicated, well, first of all, my son is the fourth. My new grandson is the fifth. So there's 5 of us. To be more complicated, my older brother that passed last year was a James Butner, but he had a different middle name. He also had a son named James Butner, Jr. for him. So if you ever heard of George Foreman, I'm sure you have. Well, he named like all of his kids George. So we were all James, but we all went by different. I went by Jim or Jimmy in school. And then as I got older, my grandma would call me Jimbo. Well, I was a huge Dukes of Hazzard fan. I mean, like an unbelievable Dukes of Hazzard. Still am. But I decided, just call me Bo. Take the Jim off. There's too many Jims. And then that name Bo stuck from my grandma, which has been passed for a while, since probably the time I was 8 or 9 years old. So that's where Bo came from. And still, you'll see sometimes in some of the deals, Bo Butner III. Well, he don't exist. Bo doesn't exist, but it's James E. Butner III. So that's where that came from.
So did you ever put together a General Lee?
I have lots of cars and models that we've done as a kid. And, of course, the whole Halloween deal. When we wrapped the car. And that's a real funny story, too. That's back when we were on ESPN. And, of course, I had the flag on top. But, again, they came to me and they said, Bo, we're not going to be able to put you on TV with that flag on top. And I'm like, well, that's your choice. If you don't want to, I'm not taking the flag off. So, anyway, they took it off. They even played the song as I was doing burnouts. But I tried to explain to them what that flag might mean to some liberal people. That was for me growing up and the good times in life. That was a fun time in life and funny show, great show, and it's a car show. And we was all about cars forever. So yeah, big General Lee fan still.
And as it turned out, you still wound up on TV.
Yeah, oh yeah, they played every bit of it. And I learned that when they threaten me, and they threaten now I fight with them about Trump. So when they threaten me, if I go rounds, they have to show me. They can't blur me out. So I need to go rounds to be able to enjoy my life.
Well, you certainly do go rounds, no question about that. This year started off a little bit tough.
Yeah. Well, we tested in Orlando, had a little race there. In fact, the car wouldn't even start in the water burnout for that first round. So that was a bummer. We go to Pomona. Didn't run so well there. Get to Phoenix, and it was a complete disaster. And that's one of them deals where you should never win a round. I got to the final. I couldn't make it down the track until the final round. I don't know, you'll have those times, the ups and downs. And the year prior to that, I think I won the first 4 out of the first 5. And it would get to where you just smile because I actually remember Gainesville. Randy Lynn wins Saturday night because they ran the Sportsman the day early to get it over with. So I had a lot to live up to anyway that next day. She let me know that. So Sunday, we're running good enough to win, but going to the final against Alex, and he breaks doing a burnout. And I remember at that time, they look at it and they do this, which it's a great feeling, especially in the final round. And I just started giggling to myself. I'm like, this is one of them days or years I just got to show up. And you have times like that. Then we went on to win Vegas, the 4 wide, and then we win Virginia. And I was like, holy cow, this is unbelievable. So, and then of course the bottom falls out and become normal again. So it's definitely it's a humbling sport. It's been a lot of fun. I enjoy it. KB, Ken Black, Judy Black have treated me like family. I mean, from day one, and I'd always say that's the only people I'd ever run pro stock with. So the guys at KB Shop, Greg and Jason, they become like 2 older brothers to me. We still talk daily, all of us. Jason's going to hang it up, which good for him, honestly, because he's got some great kids. Jack, his son, actually works on my team when he can get out of school. Great kid, learned a lot. And when he's not working on my car, I see him sitting inside, let go of the clutch pedal. I mean, for hours. Just he's ready to race. So I wish all of them well. And who knows what's going to happen in racing, which we'll talk about later, I'm sure. But it's just been a great life for. They have an American dream. If you drive down through New Albany, I've got a picture of my dad on a billboard, because to me, he lived the American dream. Started and he worked his way up. Well, I kind of did the same in racing. Started with Sportsman stock. Started right over in Ohio Valley with a trade-in. I took off this lot and went up and won a world championship in the pro series in pro stock, which to me is the highest level I'd ever want to be in as a professional in pro stock. But it's just an American dream. You can't ask for any more.
So if you think back to your dad, was he still with you when you started racing pro stock?
No, it never. Probably he died in 2010, and I started, I think, maybe 14 or 15. But I mean, started with Greg and Jason. I had another engine builder at the time running comp, as at the U.S. Nationals, I remember, and I never knew Jason or Greg. I mean, I watched them, of course, and the engine builder and myself kind of had a dispute. I didn't think I had the right motor or wasn't as fast as I should be, and kind of made a rude comment to me. And Greg was pulling up to go make a run, and I didn't know him. I mean, he might know who I was, but I said, "Hey, you ever consider doing any other engines? I mean, like, so I could do my comp program." And being Greg, I never thought of that, because they really have never done any outside stuff. They helped maybe with a Hemi or something before, but got a relationship started going there, and they started doing a couple of just taking my old engines, trying to make them better. We won a few races. I doubled up in Vegas that year with comp and stock, and got runner-up the next week in promotion. So we had good stuff. And then the next year, I get a hold of Jason, and I said, you know what? I'll take that back. My father passes, but before my father passed, he always says, whatever you do, you've raced a lot of classes, don't ever have a pro stock team. I don't want to see you spend that much money. It's a waste. I mean, so with that being said, I've never had a pro stock team. Okay, and I've never owned a pro stock part. I do own a tractor trailer. I mean, I own my own stuff there, but when it comes to tires, gas, clutch, car, that's all KBs. I own nothing. So, yeah, there's always a gray area. So, and now that I see it, yes, it's very expensive, and just the travel alone and the crew, but the time away you are from your family and business, I think that's probably what he was more talking about than the actual money. So, I understand that a lot, and I enjoy it, had a good time. I feel like I try to balance out time at home and that, because we travel a lot. But you also remember, when I'm not racing or here, like I'll leave Sunday to go to Florida and I need to buy cars. Or I might go to Connecticut to buy cars, or I might go to Oklahoma. Just, you don't know, just wherever I can buy cars. So I'm not physically here much at all. And it wears on you, it wears on you. I'm used to go. But it wears on you missing your family and being around, because they're not here forever. And then I found that out with my dad. And we was over in a very healthy man. He never smoked that I know of, or drank, and ate good, and always in good shape. And he goes to a checkup, and he had me run with him. And my mom was with us. They said, hey, we need to talk to you over in Louisville. Just regular checkup. Probably some health. He always bought life insurance, so probably some insurance checkup. They come, they said, hey, we got news for you. We found some spots on your liver and maybe your lungs or something, all in that area. And he's like, really? He goes, okay, because he felt great. And then it got to be in that same day conversation of, well, you might have 2 to 3 months left. And we all just kind of look around like, there's something messed up. And he was like,
Right.
but this is the way he was. He's like, well, I've had a good life. I'll live good. And he was 77 at that time. But like I say, in very good shape. He looked at me and they said, well, you can try some treatments. And we're still blown away. This is all happening like in one day. And he's like, no, I don't think I will. Well, I talked to him, hey, let's try it. What we got to lose? Because I don't really believe it. You know what I mean? You're too healthy. You look at you. You don't feel bad. And so we did one round of treatments. And I stayed home. But I don't think I hardly traveled at all. Stayed home with him. And luckily, he got to stay at home. But we'd take him to get his treatments. Got to a point to where, of course, after your first round of treatments, hey, it's getting better. You hear that. Well, within a week, then you get a call, yeah, it's not working. So that's when he looks at me and says, you know what? I've lived a good life. And got to be with him. I think he lasted maybe another 5 or 6 weeks. But I was actually at his house up there. He built a house right next to my race shop. And got to be with him as he passed. I was there 3 days straight. And I looked back because I had been sober for 3 weeks then, or 3 years then. And I mean, I was wild. I mean, I did a lot of bad stuff, tore up a lot of stuff, cost him a lot of money. And I really believe maybe it was more peaceful for him to know that maybe I had tried to straighten up. And he thought, well, maybe he'll get his head on his shoulders and make the business go, because this business isn't for us. It's for our customer, our families, and our employees. I mean, we can walk away and be happy and live fine, but we have to keep everybody else. And me getting older, I see that. But I think he maybe went peacefully that way, and I was holding his hand when he took his last breath. And I still, what's funny is I'll go to a racetrack, because he would go to all the national events with me. And he'd always like to stay in the same area every race. Or if he's in Chicago, he's over here. So there's times I still look over that way, even when I'm at a track today, feeling like maybe he's there. And I just hope that he's enjoyed watching me race wherever he's at, or however he's watching, and I hope he's proud, and I hope he's not mad that I am running pro stock, honestly. But I can think that he probably thinks that, for one, we made a good business decision by the deal I've got with it, and also we were successful with it. So, but there's more to life now.
Well, tell me a little bit about your racing background. You said you started at Ohio Valley with a car you took off the lot, but there's a lot of progress in there, including a world championship in the sportsman categories.
Yes, we actually, I had never in my life been to a drag strip. Never even watched them. Didn't care nothing about them, other than I was street race down here in high school, which we all would play around. Nothing fast, but actually it was here, I was graduated out of high school, and a guy ended up being my friend named Chris Llewellyn, had I think it was a 71 or 72 Nova. Pretty fast little street car around here. Well, he got married and going to have a kid. So he needed a dad car. So he brings his Nova in, and we make some type of trade. A little small block car would run, I don't know, it'd probably run in the 8th and the 8th. Little pretty decent street car for back then. We took it, and my brother-in-law at the time, which has since passed, in fact, he started racing the day I did with me. Lived over here on the street, and I'd take it over to Ohio Valley one Wednesday night. And they always had like a grudge race. I'd never ever been on a drag strip or staged or anything. So I pull up, and radio on, window down, arm like this. And the starter said, hey, they stopped me as I staged him. They said, hey, you can have your radio on and stuff, but you need to roll the window up to go down the track. So I didn't know nothing. Well, come to find out, some way, some lucky how, I win that grudge race. First time ever. I'm like, oh man, this is cool. You know what I mean? It might have been 3 or 4. I don't know what it was. Nobody knew me. I didn't know anybody. So I decided, hey, we need to put a roll cage in this. I need to go faster. So my brother-in-law, we did a roll cage. In fact, a place called R&R Chassis in Louisville, they're still here. I think Donnie Fuller's his name, or Rick Fuller. They put the chassis in it. Then we had to have a transmission. Then we had to have a converter. So that's when, you know how you inject a needle for a drug addict. That was it. And then I played around with that for a while. You probably know the name Bohannon's. Mm-hmm. Charlie, Joey, and Big Charlie was her dad. They had a bracket car. I also decided, hey, this thing goes like 6 O's, like an 82 Camaro tube chassis car. That's me. So made a deal, bought that, raced it for a little while. Then I ran into a guy by the name of Bill Felker. Bill Felker was NHRA. He might have won championship, won some national events back in the day. Always known for big block Chevys. He had a '87 Olds Cutlass back when Oldsmobile was real strong in sportsman racing for super stock. He had it for sale. So it was a small block car, and I decided, hey, I like to run some NHRA stuff. I had been racing for maybe a year. Get a deal with him, purchase his car, big wheel stands. That was the coolest thing. Dragged the back bumper. Oh, I'm hooked again. Well, come to find out that I didn't know nothing about engines or nothing like this. So we worked out a deal with Bill and actually hired him. He hired him. So that was my first deal. We ran IHRA. Never went to an NHRA race. Go to my first IHRA national event and get runner-up in a class called Modified Eliminator, which all it was like comp but dialing in. And should have won the final, but I didn't know you should lift because I'd let go and hang on and he would dial it. So I break out by something crazy and the guy had like a 300 light. It was horrible. So very next race I go to Tri-State, Ohio. Is it Hamilton? I think, is that right? Same place?
Right.
Yeah, they have grass in the middle. I get in the final, I get beat. Again, this is my second race. This is 2 in a row. Guy comes up right across the scales. I automatically win. So I'm like, man, I have really messed up. I should have been a professional racer a long time ago. I'm just winning all the time, right? And then again, reality hits. So you get hooked, and Felker stayed with me for a long time. Built a new FJ Smith Achieva. Then we started running some NHRA stuff. And at the time, IHRA, they were all families, but everybody got along. But I didn't know very many in NHRA. So we built the Achieva, and I'm running for the World Championship in Modified Eliminator at that time, I think in '96. And I think to this day that I am the guy in history. Bill talked me into going to Indy. Well, at the same time that weekend, there was a points meet in Kinston, North Carolina for IHRA. Now this is an IHRA points meet, and I was chasing the world. So I'll just go there and I'll run class, and then I'll leave and go to this IHRA points meet, which is I didn't know how big the U.S. Nationals was, you know what I mean? So, and how hard it was to even qualify. I go there and I win class, had a modified car, and go up and I remember Danny Rossi from way back then. I said, listen, I'm not going to make the race. And, well, what's wrong? I'm like, I've got to go. I'm racing for a world championship in IHRA. And got the weirdest looks you've ever seen in your life, because at that time, I had no idea how big NHRA was. And do I regret that? Absolutely. Because for one, I flew, my crew drove, I met them. I go up there, and at that time, you could kind of chase people up first round you wanted. Well, kind of went up there and chased my guy, and I red light by 1,000, first round. So I'm like, oh, but still, all that stuff you look back on, how crazy it seems, but it made us what we are today in return. So I got to meet a lot of people and appreciate that. So racing's been good to us, meeting a lot of people, happy. We can get in, if you want to get into, when I decided, hey, if I'm going to run this style car, and it was like a perfect storm, I need another engine guy, because these were modified comp style motors. And I decided I want to run comp. So that's when I got introduced to Jeff Taylor. And Jeff and I were friends after I started NHRA racing, because we both had modified cars. And then we had Willie Evans, which everybody knows. And we decided to go out west at the end of I think in '98. And I had a stacker trailer, and he had a pickup truck at the time. So I put my car in his car, and we went to Phoenix, and Pomona. I think that's how it worked at the end of the year then. And we actually, I think we raced each other in the final in Pomona, and I beat him. Yeah, I'm sure it was, because it was traveling together. Well, after that 3 weeks, we developed like a brotherhood, and said, hey, won't you, at the time he was working in North Carolina with Charlie's brother, and Charlie was a smart guy, good guy. But I talked him into moving, and he moved up here to Floyd's Knobs. We put him in my race shop. We had a dyno room. We had everything you could want. And I think he stayed up there for right at 5 years before he moved on and built a nice big place. So we had that time with Jeff, and Jeff and I together in '05 and '06 won about everywhere we went, it seems like, because he won the championship in '05, and I built this Pro Charger crazy car, and we won everything we went to with it, and I won in '06. So it was a good run between the two of us, and to this day we're still, Jeff has a lot of my respect. He taught me a lot, and what a racer he is. I mean, but he's just calm and laid back, and he's made this his living, which that's a lot of people's dreams.
Yeah, there's not a lot of people that can make a living doing this drag racing thing.
Yeah.
And
I think
even,
there's more people might have the coronavirus, honestly, than you can make a living doing drag racing. So
you're right.
that's small.
That's a small amount.
Yeah.
You've raced a lot of stuff. Is there any, first of all, is there any category that you've not raced in?
Haven't run any alcohol stuff. Came really close, and good friend of ours, Jay Payne and Shelley, I've considered maybe hopping there, and Yanni Lindberg's a good friend of mine. He told me I could drive his, but I had no interest in that until I found out there's a clutch pedal on those. I'm like, well, that's cool, and them guys drive. I mean, that's driving. There's no straight hits, so that looks like fun. The dragster stuff, not too interested. When I announced my retirement, I was approached by NHRA and another team to actually drive a nitro funny car that next year, and was going to fly in and meet with the owner. And I got thinking about it, and I was like, man, my mom doesn't want me running 200 mile an hour, and that's kind of another deal to where if I can't be with a competitive team, I feel like I don't want to just go make laps, and I want to be able to have a chance to win. I don't want somebody's misfortune to make me win. So it's kind of that deal, and also those things aren't if they're going to blow up, it's when. And I don't know how I'm going to take that. You know what I mean? Because, again, I've got a family here and a business that definitely requires all of us to be involved. So I think the Pro Mod deal got my license. I've ran one a few times. That was fun. But sometimes hopping in like this super gas car I purchased last year, or hopping in just a dragster and going over here to Ohio Valley to where it's kind of low key and just back to the roots of racing, a lot of that's fun.
Well, last year you were in a position where you were in contention for 3 different world championships.
Yes, that was something else. The shootout car I should have done a lot better in because we have really good stuff. And I probably failed this a few times. And then those things are so tough, so hard to not, if you want to run fast, you're going to tear stuff up. And I've learned that. So the super gas car was actually just an investment I made. I bought out a guy's stacker trailer, dragster, and I bought the whole package. Well, instantly I sold the trailer, ended up moving the dragster, and so I might as well take in fact, he delivered me the super gas car to Sonoma. And I'd never sat in it, and I really had never raced. I never raced anything like that. Never raced bracket race, really. I mean, we tried a few times here before, way back in my career, but I didn't know what delay boxes were. And so had a good friend, Kyle Seipel. He lives there. It was at his track. And he actually helped me that day. And we just kept knocking off rounds. And we ended up winning that event, which blows me away because that just don't happen.
First time
ever sitting in the car. And in fact, when they got there late. And I'm a Mickey Thompson guy, and it didn't have Mickey's on it. So I had to wait for them to open up so I could take it up there, and they threw all 4 new tires on it. And I made the first time running. It was fun. It's a very good car. That car's won a lot for a long time. I think Ron Erks won with it. Dave Conley used to drive it. It's an older car. So actually, Randy Lynn talked me into keeping it. So now it's actually at Russ Farmer's Race Tech. And he's doing like you would do one of these, complete frame-off restoration. Because it was such a good car. I looked into building another one, but why? I mean, the car works good. Let's just make it nice again. So it'll be ready in about 2 weeks. So yeah, we had a chance to win that, and that's all Randy Lynn, because I think I went maybe 3rd round the next race, and I got a runner-up in Brainerd. I got runner-up in Bowling Green. I was like, holy cow, man, we got a shot if you do anything at all to win the road in that. But it was a good fun time. It's fun. Her and I got to get away. And any off weekend we have, went to Earlville, went to some places that we don't typically go. And just her and I to go away with a trailer and just a little trailer with 1 car. Usually I've got to take her car everywhere, and a motorhome. And we had a good time doing that. And it got me back to where, I started in this era, went to the pros. I'm going to probably end up in this era. And that's what I tell everybody. I'm a sportsman racer that's got a chance to run pro, but I'll end up right back there with those guys.
You touched a little bit on your wilder days. So go back into that part of your life and talk about, if you can,
Sure.
what was going on back there, and how you've kind of come out the other side.
Yeah, alcoholism really isn't in my family. I had a wild uncle, like I stated before, but as in some people are, maybe it's generation, but and some people are self-made, kind of like this guy. And it was just from, I don't know if growing up, I was always around adults. I mean, my whole life. We lived in a little neighborhood, maybe one other kid. You know what I mean? So I was always around older adults. If I played sports, it was with adults. I did play some sports in school, but like after be with grown men and playing basketball and stuff. So that older style, but I was never raised to where you should drink. Like in high school, never had no issues. Never had no issues with anything. Just didn't always like to go, and I hated to get up that early. But I think I just developed into maybe being on the road. I can't explain it, and there's a lot of it I would do differently, I promise you. But I got married very young. I had my son when I was 17. So all that happened young. Don't blame any of that for my actions at all, but because we all still make our own decisions. But as time went on and as I got on the road more and got away from probably my family going, so it just leaves me and the crew. Well, then you go out, you eat, start drinking, and it leads to other things. It leads to probably some bad choices in life, which I made a lot of them. But I went through that spell and it just kept getting worse. Still, I was always, everybody tells me I was a good time. Never really got in trouble. Here local is the only place I get in trouble, believe it or not. And being all over the country didn't bother me much, but was very fortunate to have a blessed life. Could go do what I wanted. And to this day, I still say life was good there, but life sober is amazing. I mean, it's totally different, totally different. And gets to the point to where maybe some drugs get involved. And then you wake up one morning and the whole right side's out of your Escalade, and you're like, man, did I do that? And then something else missing or something, just a lot of bad choices. Get a DUI down here. Luckily, we have some family friends. They got it switched over to a PI. So, I mean, they get another DUI. At that second DUI, I'm like, man, I'm in trouble. I think something's going on here. But I also have 4 young kids. At the time, I was separated, but not divorced. Had my parents, and I go to them as soon as I got out of jail. Says, you know, and probably just to save my face, I probably need to go get some help. Not really thinking maybe I have an issue, because to me, a lot of stuff with trust has to do with people asking for money. You know what I mean? So I said I'll try to. A dentist friend of our family got me into a place called Talbot, a little south of Atlanta. It's actually in Atlanta, but right across the street from the airport. So they got me in. My parents drove me down there, left me the car, and they flew home. Little did I know I was going to be there 16 weeks. So they take me in there, and they don't care who you are, what you got. You're all in there equal. And so I won't name names, but I was in there with a bunch of WWE wrestlers. For some reason, a bunch of Delta airline pilots. I think it's because they're across the street. A lot of doctors, but this disease, they call it disease, doesn't discriminate. I mean, it gets anybody, any and everybody. There's 80-year-old women in there. There's 14-year-old kids in there. And they're all in there for different reasons, and learned so much. But it probably took 4 to 6 weeks for them to convince me maybe I have an issue. Because the whole time I'm like, this is just a money thing. I mean, very expensive, and they make you stay in a little apartment with 3 other guys. You have to go everywhere together. Can't have any money. You have to go to the grocery store together. I mean, but at the time it seems stupid. If you don't set your alarm, you get in trouble when you leave. But they're trying to teach you normal life. I mean, it's really simple. And again, they build you up. Like I can remember being able to maybe have a home pass, or you can come home for the weekend and you're pumped up, working hard that week. They call you in on Friday, you're supposed to leave Friday night. Yeah, you're not ready. And you're like, holy cow. But they're building you up to see how you react. It all makes sense now. And there's many times I call my mom and say, hey, get me out of here. There's a place in Arizona where they have private chefs, blah, blah, blah. But we stuck it out. And I definitely believe it saved my life, if not others around me, because I was very influential. I mean, when I was partying, you're going to party too. You know what I mean? We're all going to have fun. And I feel bad for if I affected any other person in that way. And I know a couple I could have, but I've since then tried to make up for it and try to help them. And still to this day, I get calls. And I put this story out. Kevin McKinnon did a long deal on this, on my story. And I get a lot of fan mail and even other racers that maybe are struggling or having the same questions I had. And that's what keeps me sober today, is trying to help them and share my story with them and tell them, hey, it's not easy. I mean, you're going to have to work it, but it's also not that hard. Just make the right choice, and don't let it get to that point. And I'm very fortunate that that's happened to me. I really feel like, other than the cost, maybe everybody should have to go through something like that, because the first day I was there, you sit in a group of like 5 people, and they all start telling you their problems and issues. And the guy, the counselor said, listen, when you listen to everybody's problems, if you throw them all in the middle, all of y'all, in the middle of that floor, you're going to pick yours back up. It's not that bad. And he was right. I mean, there's some messed up people out there. I mean, they went through some bad stuff. So my 2 little DUIs is nothing compared to some.
You've always been pretty open about talking about this. Was there ever a time when you wouldn't have been so open? Were you ashamed of it or hide it?
Now, everybody kind of knew my reputation at the track, but like my parents didn't. Maybe they knew, but part of the step process is I did get to come home, and you're supposed to admit everything to people. So I sat and had to admit to drinking, and they, yeah, we know, we saw you, blah blah blah. Then I had to admit to doing some drugs. And that floored my mother. I mean, that's like the devil. I mean, I can't believe this. And my dad said, yeah, man, just real calm. Because you do know. Once you have been around it or seen it, and to this day, I'm sure my dad never touched a drug, but he's been around plenty of people that have. So you do know that, and you're not conning or hiding nothing, because absolutely, I'm a believer, everything comes out in life. No matter what it is, eventually, we might not be around, but it's going to come out.
How tough has it been to stay on track?
It's different times. You can always find a reason why to go back. I mean, I could be upset because it's raining. I need to have a drink. I mean, and I tell other people that. But I'm a guy that likes to think positive now instead of the worst. And I question a lot, even with this pandemic. I mean, with everything going on in life, you always question it. But I have many reasons not to. And it's always all around me. But no, I haven't had an issue. I still, to this day, I'll admit, I used to like Crown Royal. I used to drink the heck out of it. I was drinking a little 1/5 or a half gallon a night there at the end, every single night. And to this day, and it's been since 2007 since I've had a drink, I can walk past a store that has it, or walk right past it, and I taste it. It's really funny. That you still get that, you remember the taste. And I've never tried it, but they say if I go right back to drinking again today, I'll start right back to where I ended. So when I walked into rehab, which I'm not skinny by no means now, but I weighed 50 more pounds than I do now. My liver was 85% shot. Blood pressure through the roof. I mean, just, you don't know it because you stay intoxicated or you're high. You don't know how your body is. Plus I was younger. So from the time that started, I got on a workout program, tried to eat right. I got hooked up with some of these wrestlers that work out all the time. It went from all that to liver was 100% in 16 weeks when I left. Had lost 40-something pounds. Just a different guy. Thinking clearly like, holy cow, like this is a whole different world. A quick story on that. When I had this Pro Charger car, this was in the middle of all that. And Jeff Taylor still worked with me. Daryl Heron, he was still around me. We go test. As soon as I get out of rehab, go test this Pro Charger car in St. Louis. And I take off, I had track shut off. They didn't say nothing to me. Come back around, make a run, shut off half track. And then Jeff, I remember Jeff looking at me and saying, dude, what's wrong? I'm like, man, this thing's a freaking monster. It's all over the track. He goes, man, it's making perfectly straight runs. I don't know what we can do any different. And I was like, I got thinking, that's really the first time I drove it in a sober state of mind. I didn't drive drunk, don't get me wrong. I never was drunk at the racetrack during racing, but I never had that that clarity that, holy cow, this thing's a monster. But it didn't register. So it changes your thought process like people would not believe. I mean, and I love people that can go out. Randy Lynn can go out and have a drink for dinner. We can go out with some friends and they have a couple, but that wasn't me. I'm not capable. I go till they run out. I mean, there's no limit. So there's a lot of people that are capable of doing things, but whether it's this business or it's drinking or whatever it is, I'm usually all in. So that's me.
Randy Lynn has to have been a huge influence on helping you get your life back on track.
Yes, she's, we probably didn't do the right thing the way I met her. Because at the time I was married. So that's not the way you do things. I had 4 kids. But it's hard to explain. She's grown a lot. Through that time, she sure helped. But since then, and me getting divorced and us moving on, still to this day, she puts me in check. I mean, pretty much daily anymore because I come up with some crazy ideas. But yeah, she's she can always look like the bad side that broke up a family. You know what I mean? But it was nothing. I mean, and I've had this talk with my kids and my ex-wife and all that. If it wasn't Randy Lynn or somebody else, you know what I mean? It was me. It's not anybody else's fault. So that's been a tough transition. But she's just for her to be able to go through that because she wants us to have a great family with everybody. You know what I mean? Because she comes from a good family. There are no divorces. Everybody gets along, which like her sister and her brother, they've not really seen that. So most families today aren't involved in it. You know what I mean? It's totally different. So we all want a good family, everybody to be happy. It's hard to get past certain things for certain people. So we still struggle with that today. But yeah, she is, still to the day has my back in anything. As she's getting older, she's getting, I don't call her mouthier, but she does give me her opinion a lot more. And I'm glad because I want this as a team and not this is Bo's and then she's just there. So she's, if all goes well and we still have our racing schedule, like I hope, we're to get married November 2nd in Vegas. And like I've said, I've invited the whole world. And she's mad at me because there's no telling who will show up. But I mean, I hope this pandemic gets through, life gets somewhat back to normal, and we get through that because down deep in my heart, she deserves her day and to be married. And we've talked about it for years. And I always would joke. I mean, I was like, well, you need to get to know somebody before you just jump into marriage. Well, that was 10 years ago. So, yeah, she's right there with me and loves our business, loves racing, and loves cars. And people should know how hard it is to find a woman that's into those things. I mean, and understands them. And just like I said, again, I always had my back. If I tell her, hey, we're going to team with Kenny Kretzky and have nitro fish, you're going to run it. Instead of her complaining, and it's a lot of work. I mean, she just sent out 54 orders online last week. There were some in Sweden, there were some everywhere. She does all that physically by herself. And I tried to say, hey, let's hire you some help. She don't want any help. She's the type that thinks you have to do it yourself, which a lot of people do, but she gets it done right, and I'm very fortunate to have her by my side for sure.
She's not just the regular racing wife. She doesn't lounge around the motor home. She's got that great Pontiac, and she can whip you on the drag strip too.
Yeah, she's rated right up there with the top winning sportsman women. But not only that is a lot of people don't know, she'll feed 40 of us any given day. She cooks for KB sometimes and all the teams, Dave Kramer's team. And we all take turns, but she's kind of like the mom. But she is such a big spokesman for sportsman racing, period. I mean, she will voice her opinion, like I said, and many times NHRA has called her and got her opinion. She stands behind the sportsman racer and understands if it's not for sportsman racing, there is no NHRA racing. And we honestly believe that. I know NHRA knows it in their heart, and they love their pro deal, but again, there is no racing without sportsman racing, and you have to have the support and trust of them, I think, to continue on. So I think maybe they're moving that way. Let's hope so. But she does so much more than she can drive, and I'll put her in she's got an opportunity to drive anything I have, but she likes her Firebird. She drove the super gas car in Indy, had fun with it, but she'll tell you, I know my limitations, and I know what I want to do. So she's very capable of driving anything, I'm sure, but she does what she wants to do.
What would it be like to follow Bo Butner around for a day or a week?
Daily, when we're home, it's pretty simple. John Meany, a good friend of mine, Mike Moran, these two guys from up in Michigan, they laugh at me to this day because I said my body has an alarm clock. And I'm serious. I really believe 7 o'clock, 6:55, my body wakes up. I don't care if I went to sleep at 4 in the morning. I'm instantly like I don't need an alarm clock. Works out good because I live here. Now, if I lived out west, I'd be in trouble. I'd miss a bunch over here. But it starts out doing that, jumping up, getting ready, and who knows when I might have to go to an auction in Evansville. I might come down here, might go to a race shop, might go to my service shop. Then there's another dealership. So there's really no telling, but like Randy Lynn will tell you, she keeps a bag sitting there, knowing at any time, like I might call her tonight and say, hey, we need to fly to Florida tomorrow. And she's getting older and enjoying home more, and her niece is coming down this week, so I can't drag her away. I mean, she's to the point now she enjoys family because we've been on the road so much, and she could probably tell you how many days we were at home last few years. It's nothing, less than a month that we actually sleep in our room. But just doing that and following me down here or following me at an auction. One good thing is it's hard for me to still recognize we have a lot of people watch racing. A lot of people, a lot of car guys. Well, everywhere I go, there seem to be a lot of car guys, whether it's auctions or anywhere I'm at, car shows. And to be recognized that the way people walk up and talk to you, in my head, I'm just ready to go buy cars or go look at old classic cars or whatever it is to make a deal. But they come up and they want to talk to you, and it's really still amazing to me that they watch you. And they know something you might have said, or they know what kind of reaction time you had the last race. I mean, all that, it's still hard, or they want to take a picture in the airport. And it's just funny because I'm still the same guy. I feel like I am, but it's fun to take the time to talk to the people. Because again, if it wasn't for these people showing up at these races, we wouldn't have the NHRA. And I'm very blessed for that. Again, I don't know what's going to happen if I stop racing now and show up at a race 10 years from now. Do people want to recognize you? And then again, you ask yourself, who cares? I mean, what's it matter? You're here to have fun and race. And Daryl Heron, good friend of mine, been with me like 16 years, decided this year not to go pro stock racing. He wanted to spend more time with his family. He builds our super shootout cars, so he's still going to be involved in those. He just had a grandkid yesterday or day before, his first. So he's a little older than I am, but he's realized that the family thing and this whole reset button has showed us something that there is more. And again, he comes to me every season. You gonna run pro stock again? I'm like, well, I don't know, maybe, probably. Why? You've already did everything you need to do. You won a championship. You did this and did that and won plenty of races. Don't you enjoy just being home? And then I get talking to my good friend Jason Line, and he's kind of the same boat. Luckily, he's doing it now while his kids are still young, so he can go enjoy and do that. But you do sacrifice. Your family sacrifices more than you do. And again, to be a decent racer, it sounds bad. You have to be a selfish son of a bitch, honestly, because you care about whatever it takes to get. I don't care if it's a $1,500 bracket race or it's $250,000 to win the World Championship. Whatever it takes to do that, winning, not answering your phone. Not you know what I mean, whatever it takes just to focus to win that one round. And that's sad to say. There's a few guys that are competitive and they do well, but they also give up a lot. I mean, I think of David Rampy, good friend of mine, very religious. I mean, he just a calm dude. He's had to give up a lot and sacrifice a lot, and his family has, for him to win what he has. Talk to him, and he's great. I mean, he's got it going on. Dan Fletcher, now he starts to carry his family with him. So all these people that have been very successful, to start out, they gave up everything. I mean, Fletch quit his job to go race sportsman racing full time, and I think he had a pretty good job. So that's a big step, but you really jeopardize a lot, I think, family and personal side to be able to do that. So yeah, but again, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But I know I'm going to wake up at 7 o'clock, sometime close to that, and I'll be down here selling cars or something to do in automobile business.
So in hindsight, was all of that sacrifice worth it?
You know, I don't know. I really don't know. Have I been successful on the track? I think I have. I'm happy. If I never win another round, I can't complain. I won't keep doing it, but I'll do something different. But there's things I would probably have done different. Of course, you always look back and you handle certain things differently. But then again, maybe that made you what you are today. So I don't know the right answer to that. Someday, somebody upstairs will let us know. I'm sure we're graded, so we'll know how we ended.
Are you still having fun when you are out there?
Yeah, it's fun up to the point to where if Randy Lynn comes to me and stressed about the t-shirt trailer, or she's stressed about you got to feed the guys, or boat costs $18,000 to get out west this year because we do 3 trucks. I mean, if that stuff starts stressing her out, it's not as much fun. And because I'm going to have fun hopping in that car and letting go of the clutch and making that run. I'm going to cut up. I'm going to go talk to fans. That's what I do. Her deal is kind of like a job. And don't get me wrong, she would love to sit there in high heels and be your typical pro wife. And she says she would love to be a trophy wife. But I know better. She wants to be involved, and she's nothing if not more than a racer than me. She loves to race, loves to go up when we're finished running pros. Can't wait to get up there and watch the rest of Sportsman Racing if she's still not in. We're up in the stands watching. And but we have such a support from the Sportsman fans for that. And again, that's just who we are. It's not a put on. It's not an act. We actually enjoy it. So yeah, I'm still having fun. Do I miss it? Yeah, it's been a long time. But I've also missed this. So there's always a balance in life. And I tell my oldest son this. It's hard to make everybody happy. But you just, first of all, if you're not happy, nobody around you is going to be happy. So that's what we try to work on.
If you were able to, what would Bo Butner of today go back and tell his younger self before everything he went through? Or would you even tell him anything?
Well, for one, that younger Bo Butner would have tried to con the new Bo Butner into, hey, this is what we're going to do today, or this is okay. I don't know. There'd be a lot. Of course, I'd spend more time with family, without a doubt. But as we get older, you know that. Especially when my youngest kid is graduating next Thursday from high school. I'm like, holy cow, where does that go? I mean, I have no more kids in school. I mean, he'll go to college, but no more kids in high school, which blows my mind. I mean, I'm 45, so I'm fairly young to have 4 kids out of school. But if he's out of school, as long as I get to be in his life and we're still together, that's great. I mean, that's the part I work on the most now, is trying to keep that balance. I'm sure they've had different times where they're proud of my racing. But there's probably a lot of times where I missed out on a lot of their life. In fact, I know there's not probably, there is a lot, that I would go back and maybe change and try harder. If I'm capable of doing it, I should have got home more. I mean, a lot of times we would go to a race and stay out between weeks and not come home. And that's not good for your family, and definitely not good for business either.
You've had the opportunity to do a whole lot of things in life. Is there still something on the bucket list, or something that, man, I'd really like to go do this thing?
You know, actually, this sounds funny. We travel a lot. So travel is not big, but there's probably a few places I like to travel. I don't really know where, but just seeing this business grow, maybe add another lot, then add another lot. Just something. There's goals I've got to wake up to, and I think we all do. People that have nothing to do, which I don't know why, or that's not good. I mean, you have to wake up feeling fulfilled for the day. Like, hey, if I wash this car off, I'm going to feel good about it. I'm going to show somebody. But if I sit at home and listen to everybody whine on TV, it's a total waste. So living life, I say, and trying to help others. I mean, any way we can try to help another person, to me, is safe and good for me.
Your dad's picture is up on a building downtown. Do you envision yourself up there alongside him?
Never. I don't need to be beside him. I'll be under him, because I know for a fact, if it wasn't for that man and what he did and what he put himself through, that I'm not saying I couldn't be successful or wouldn't be in where I'm at today, but it would be very hard. And I still have my mom. And I think my mom's, if you go inside our lobby in here to our payment office, I got a picture of both of them engraved, because I believe behind that man was a great woman. And it takes that great woman to keep that man in check. And hopefully this one I found of Randy Lim, this time I've got here, will be the one. And I feel like I'm very fortunate for that. And we'll get married, move on. We might be at a racetrack. We might be down in Florida on jet skis. Who knows? But whatever it is, we enjoy being together. And spending time together and spending time with your family is what I want to be known for now, more than making money or being a champion. So just being the right person.